The story begins with an introduction to the main character, who is sitting by the window and thinking about when the Duke's successor will arrive. Her name is Celine Mars, who recently turned 10 years old, is currently training hard to become a Knight Protector like her father for Duke Willow. The little girl asked if the boy would definitely arrive today. The woman said that they should arrive soon, just let him wait a little longer. The Duke is the one who rules the northern lands. If you look at how seriously he gives orders, it may seem that the man looks even cooler than her father. The successor of such a cool person must definitely be muscular, very strong, and no less serious. Suddenly, the girl heard the sound of an approaching carriage and realized that it seemed the young man had arrived. Therefore, she quickly got ready to run towards him, and her mother asked her to be careful and not to forget to behave properly with the young man. Everyone unanimously told the little girl that the successor was simply amazing, so the one who would become her master was probably as cool as her father's master. The little one thought that everything would be just like this, but his appearance disappointed her. On the way, Celine asked him why he was laughing. The guy answered simply because this situation was amazing. The girl thought to herself that her father had said that they do not choose who they will serve, and she must diligently serve this person, no matter what he is like. Even though Debutant is like that, she, as a knight, will have to try to make up for what he lacks. So she introduced herself and said that she was pleased to meet the little son of House Willow, the Duke's successor. She noted to herself that no matter how much she looked at him, she still couldn't believe that this fragile, skinny boy, who smiled so strangely, was really the Duke's successor. You might miss that he has a cute face and a thin, weak body. The problem is in that smile. She gives off a nasty feeling, like when you eat bread with too much butter on it, so why is he smiling like that? Then she asked whether he lived in the capital and whether anyone was bullying him there. Debutant just keeps smiling so strangely. The boy asked what was wrong with his smile. Mars explained that he has a weird expression on his face. In their area, only weaklings smile like that because they want to please everyone. The little girl will not say anything to the Duke and her father, let him just admit if someone is offending him. The guy thought to himself that he should continue to be mistaken and then asked her how she had guessed. The little one exclaimed that for experts like her, one glance would be enough to understand everything. Noticing that he was trembling all over, the little one added that he didn't need to be so embarrassed, because weakness is not a crime. In fact, the young man was so amused by all this that he even started to cry. Our heroine decided that this was why he even cried. It turns out that he is such a vulnerable person. In the capital, he was mocked at every turn, bullied by his peers, incessant gossip, and insults that could not be forgotten. Then she handed him a handkerchief and told him not to be too hard on himself. It was not the boy's fault that he was born weak. If he tries hard enough, he can become at least half as good as the Duke. Well, or at least 1/10, or more precisely 1/30 as strong as the Duke. The young man continued to burst into laughter because of her words. Celine exclaimed that she would definitely help him grow up and become his Knight Protector. Her father says that helping in a difficult situation is the duty of a knight. The young man smiled and thanked her for such words, but asked how exactly she was going to help him. The girl replied that she would think about it. He just needed to trust her and follow her. Then she added that it was time for her to go and that she shouldn't be upset. They would see each other again tomorrow anyway, and in general, they didn't have much time to make him stronger. It will be a little difficult for him in the future, but let him think about it as something necessary. When she left, the guy noted that there was no way that anyone would mock the successor of Duke Willow, the most powerful man in the central nobility. Debutant is a genius swordsman who is recognized even by the Capital Academy. The guy has never lost even to the cunning capital nobility. One can say that he is a truly outstanding person, worthy of the title of successor to the Duke. This little girl is the first one who is so obviously disappointed when she sees him. He would immediately reprimand her so that she does not make mistakes again. But the young man had already forgotten the last time he had so much fun, and he thought that he would be bored in this place. And it turned out that it would be incredibly fun, so why shouldn't he pretend a little more? Last night, when they were riding in the carriage, the father asked how long it would take his son to return to the capital. The boy replied that he hadn't thought about it yet, because the holidays had just begun. The man replied that then why shouldn't he look at the horses tomorrow? There were so many that he should look at, but the boy objected that he had an appointment. They agreed to meet Mars' daughter. Celine, a very appropriate name for such a cute child. The next day, our heroine waved her hand to the boy and shouted that she was here. Demian didn't understand who it was because he didn't remember meeting anyone like that. What kind of village hairstyle and tasteless clothes were those? After which he took a closer look at her and realized that she was the daughter of the Knight Defender of Mars. Then he decided to observe aristocratic etiquette and start the conversation with a compliment or praise, so he said that these clothes suit her. The girl muttered that she knew it, so she prepared something for him. The little girl handed him some clothes, and the young man asked if it was necessary to change. Celine replied that otherwise his clothes would get dirty. After all, she warned him that there would be a training session. Demian looked at her carefully and asked a question. What? Shouldn't the clothes get dirty? The little girl exclaimed that, of course, if he got his new clothes dirty, his mother, the Duke's wife, would scold him later. The boy thought to himself that he always wore only new clothes and he was never scolded if he got dirty. Then he replied that, okay, now he would quickly go and change his clothes and come back. Our heroine objected, why go somewhere? Just let her change over there. On the way, the young man thought about what kind of torment this was from the very morning. First these village clothes, and now changing clothes in the bushes. After some time, the boy said that he had changed his clothes and whether he looked okay. Mars examined him and said that he had put his shirt on incorrectly because these ties should be in the front. Let him go and change again, but quickly. When Demian got dressed properly, he asked what they were going to do with Mars' daughter now. The little girl was indignant that she shouldn't be called that, let her just call her by her name, and reminded her what her name is. The young man wondered if this child knew that in high society, calling someone by name was only allowed in very close relationships. When this question was decided, our heroine solemnly declared that today they would catch rabbits. Those very same ones, with long, erect ears which also jump high. When asked how exactly they were going to do this, the girl replied that they would set traps in the forest. The guy asked if she knew how to make traps. The babe proudly answered whether he was aware that in Marion she was actually known as an expert on traps. In fact, it was a lie. The forest was very dangerous, and that's why she wasn't allowed there. She had never even hunted there. They told her that a terrible, terrible bear lives there, but there is one saying, talented people go to the capital, knights go to the north. Of course, it can't compare to the capital's academy, but the Northern Night School that Celine goes to is a fairly well-known institution. In this famous school, she shows good abilities, in a word, elite, so making a trap and catching a rabbit should not be difficult for her, probably. Looking around, Demian thought that, apparently, this is a completely virgin forest. It looks too dangerous for children. You need to be careful just in case. After some time, the girl said that she thought this tree would be suitable. So they will set a trap here and let the young man go and collect branches. After a short period of time, the guy had already brought everything that was needed, and the little one noted to herself that she hadn't even had time to rest properly because her legs hurt terribly. This is of course all wonderful, but how can you make a trap out of these branches? Noticing her thoughtful expression, the boy said that he had actually studied how to make them at the academy. Celine immediately became happy and said that she was very interested to see how the capital's people differed from those in the north. When everything was ready, the little one said that usually rabbits appear together, where there is somewhere to hide, for example, at the roots of trees, so they can leave traps here. Demian thought to himself that it was simply amazing. Even though he was the Duke's successor, she was trying to command him. She was already 10 years old. Wasn't she taught at least something? On the other hand, he doesn't want to hurt her feelings, so the young man isn't angry with her at all. When they had gone a little further, our heroine exclaimed how beautiful it was around. The young man immediately covered her mouth with his hand and told her to be quiet, since there was a rabbit right in front of them. The boys tried to behave as quietly as possible and slowly crept up on him. But the animal immediately sensed someone's presence, so it started running as fast as it could. When the girl was about to chase after him, the guy stopped her and said that she had better not run after him. Our heroine froze for a second and thought that she felt that something was wrong here, but perhaps she just imagined it. The young man began to lead her away from there and say that he had actually already seen several rabbits along the way. They were nearby, so it would be better to go catch them there. After that, they started trying to catch rabbits, but eventually failed and returned home, but next time they will definitely succeed. The next day at Willow Castle during tea, a woman asked why Demian went to Marion because he said that he was not interested. What is there that their son goes there, as if everything there is covered in honey? The boy goes there to meet with the Baron, or for what reason? The Duke objected that no, with his daughter, she looks like her father, with the same red hair, and goes to night school. This year she turned 10 years old. The North produces many great knights, including many who have sworn allegiance to the Willow family, but among them the status of Knight Defender has always been special. In 10 years, this position will belong to a girl in relation to Demian. He grew up without brothers and sisters. That's why she is so interesting to him. Her name is Celine, but in the village she is known as a notorious troublemaker. She is very friendly, and there is no one there who does not know her. Mars is a great help in managing Marion. In fact, the Baron's mother was a commoner, and in fact he was not supposed to become the successor of the Mars family. He had 3 brothers born in marriage, but who could have known that a terrible disease would overtake the entire North? So he became a baron at the age of 9. The following year, he was enrolled in a knight's school. A friend with whom he grew up together suddenly inherited a noble title and began to rule the village. It is roughly understandable what the atmosphere was like then. Of course, everything went wrong, and at the moment when he was already thinking of giving up the title of Baron, because he could not find a common language with the inhabitants of Marion, he had a child. This girl played with everyone, without dividing other children into nobles and commoners, but one day an argument occurred. Celine was hit by a commoner's child so hard that her cheek and neck started bleeding. At night, this child immediately came to them together with his father to ask for forgiveness. But the little girl herself resolved this situation. They say that she ran out to the door in her pajamas, after which she said that he hit her 4 times, and she hit him 6 times, so it was her own fault. Then she sat down on her knees next to the commoner's child and raised her hands. She said that since the child, who was less guilty, knelt down, then Mars should also raise her hands. After this, things began to improve in society, and the problem that adults could not solve was easily and simply solved by this little girl. After some time, the young man asked who all these children were. "Baby, I'm afraid it's not Bella and Johann. They study with her in the 2nd grade of the Northern Night School." The girl looked at him and asked if what he was wearing was something he needed to wear in the capital now, or if he had chosen it himself. Our heroine explained that she is the daughter of a local seamstress and also draws very well. Bella immediately started asking what color is currently in fashion in the capital and what kind of collars and fabrics. Johann had already said that it was time for him to go. Celine immediately asked why, what happened. The boy explained that iron ore had been delivered to the store today, and his father had slightly injured his back. "It's just that today the store needs help." The little one replied that everything is fine. He said that help is not always needed in the gunsmith, but sometimes there is a shortage of workers. Suddenly, Bella announced that it was time for her to go too. She needed to tell her mother everything she had heard from the Duke's successor. Mars said that since that was the case, she would continue to introduce Demian to everyone else. That boy over there is called Choco, and the girl next to him is Mia. This little girl's family's bakery is the best in Marion. They always have lines. The guy was surprised to himself that he had to buy buns separately because they were always on the table when he ate. Celine continued that the boy's father is a very good doctor for animals, after which she asked whether he would return to the capital when the holidays were over. The guy answered yes. Our heroine was upset. She would like him to come again. She invited the children because she wanted him to have many good memories, but everything is not going as planned. Suddenly, the children also started saying goodbye and saying that it was time for them to go home too. They found a 4-leaf clover, so they really want to show off to mom and dad. Зрение. Другое дитя присоединилось к детям, бегущим по улицам Мариана. Only the Duke's successor, who looked like a little prince from a fairy tale, was not very good at playing village games. There was a secret word that the children of Marion called the Duke's successor, and that word was scone, which they used when they were annoyed with his playing skills. When they said out loud that they really wanted to eat a scone today, it was a kind of signal to each other. Naturally, the one they were talking about, listening to something like this, simply thought that apparently they really liked scone. Time passed, the holidays were over, so the day came when Demian had to return to the academy. Upon seeing him, the boy exclaimed that he had not seen him at all during the holidays. Where had he been? When the guy answered that he had been to the north, the interlocutor was surprised by this, because the west and south are still okay, but what can you do in cold regions? Then he noticed a stone on his chest and asked what it was. Willow explained that it was a sapphire. A friend objected that it was just a piece of glass, but Demian said no, it was a sapphire. I thought to myself that Celine said so. She said that she saw one like this in her mother's jewelry box, which means it's definitely a sapphire. They say that beautiful stones are worth wearing as a necklace, so he tried to attach it to a leather rope. But it seems that it will soon break, so you need to quickly give it to the jeweler to cut into gold, because he does not want this piece of glass to fall and break. When his interlocutor was indignant, asking whether he was listening to him at all, Demian said that it was time for him to go, since he would be late for class. But to himself, he thought that he wanted to meet those guys again as soon as possible. After some time, the boy got angry and asked why he wasn't going anywhere. Demian replied that he didn't want to. His friend was indignant that anyway there was nothing to do in the capital during the holidays. You can practice with a sword in a country house. The Duke's successor replied that his father was arriving, plus the northern school was on vacation. The classmate was indignant. What does this have to do with anything? Let him come visit him. But Willow replied that he couldn't because he was busy. The young man replied that he was actually a busy man too, but still made time for him, and he didn't appreciate it. The boy remembered what his father had written to him, namely that he would be accompanied by Baron Mars and Celine, so he should convey this to his mother and prepare the rooms. Meanwhile, on the way, the girl admired that there were so many beautiful buildings around, and she thought that Caladea was the biggest. The man said that Red Brittle is not that far away, so why did the Duke decide to take his daughter with him? He is worried that she might cause problems. Willow replied that there was no need to worry, that children were created to do mischief. Besides, Demian was in the capital now. They could spend time together. It seems to him that it is better for them to become friends now, because in the future they will see each other often. Her father objected that perhaps the Duke's successor will get tired. Our heroine was indignant. Why does he think so? When people receive favor, they remember it. But the guy, on the contrary, should be glad to see her. The father asked what grace he had received from her. The little girl explained that when the boy had come to the north last time, she had diligently entertained him. Then she drew attention to the beautiful chapel and said that God himself must have created this clock. The man asked in surprise why she thought it was a watch. The little one replied that she was taught this at the night school. They say that if you get lost in nature, you can find out the time using a stick. It turns out that this huge clock was created by God to know the time. The Duke objected that it was just the tower of the academy. They say that the magician who built the academy made it so tall. 800 years ago, there lived a great wizard who helped the emperor when this country was just founded. It is said that after the war, he settled in the capital and erected an educational institution. She may or may not believe it, but there are also rumors that there were even dragons in those days. The little girl asked if she would be able to see something like a fireball if she went to the academy. The man didn't understand what she was talking about. Father explained that she had read it in books, so Willow replied that there was no such thing. Then the little one asked if they could make ice arrows. The Baron explained that she also took this from books. The Duke asked for forgiveness and said that such magic also does not exist, which greatly disappointed Celine. This academy does not study such magic, but for example metal breeding in order to create higher quality alloys. Recently, a new technology for making iron was discovered. It turns out that if blessed water is used for cooling instead of plain water, the material becomes much stronger. Our heroine came to the conclusion that the magician who erected this tower was poor. If he had been rich, he would have chosen a larger land for the school. So why did he decide to build the academy in the capital? The girl in his place would have created it in the north because there is a lot of land there, but because of the cold it is unsuitable for land ownership, so it is an ideal place for a school. The man replied that it made sense. If she had been born during the founding era, that magician would have definitely listened to her. Suddenly it dawned on our heroine why the Duke's successor was so weak. Studying is something that allows you to train your mind in a place where there is no distraction. Of course, he lives in a place where it is impossible to concentrate on anything, which is why he cannot train in swordsmanship. She needs to pull herself together and be more serious. She needs to try even harder. Her father always says that everything can be fixed with effort. Today, she is full of determination. After some time, they arrived at the estate, and the Duchess came out to meet them with her son. Our heroine immediately approached him, bowed and said that they had not seen each other with the little son Willow for a long time. She noted to herself that during this time, of course, she had also grown up, but while they had not seen each other, the Duke's successor had grown a lot. Suddenly, her father took her by the shoulders and said that he was glad to see her, but it was time for them to leave. Then he noticed their things, which were being carried away by the maids, and asked why the luggage was being carried towards the estate. The Duke explained that since he had a child with him, it would be more comfortable for them to stay with them rather than separately, but the man objected that there would be enough space for them in the annex. But Willow said that it would be inconvenient for him to be away when he needed it, so it would be done as he said, and the father had no choice but to agree. Inside the palace, the little girl said that it was a little different from what the Duke had said. The boy asked to clarify what exactly he had said. The girl replied that he said that his estate in the capital was quite modest. Demian was surprised that it was not modest. Celine exclaimed that even if all the residents of Marion settled here, there would still be empty rooms. The guy objected that the mansion of the Count Ryder family is twice as big. Our heroine asked how he knew how big their estate was. The young man explained, because Russell Ryder is from the Count's family and his best friend at the academy. Celine exclaimed in shock. Could they really be friends? Demian asked why she was so surprised that he had a friend. The baby replied that she had always been told that people living in the capital were selfish, but still people live there too, no matter how you look at it. While the young man was thinking about how unusual she was, our heroine said that she wanted to meet that friend. When asked why she needed this, the girl replied that she would ask him to continue being friends with her. Until she becomes his knight defender, she feels like he should always have someone by his side. He needs to appreciate his only friend. Suddenly, the young man asked her why she even thought that he had only one friend. The little girl was glad that he really had more friends. 2 friends is already very good. Even if one leaves, the other will still remain. The little one saw how he couldn't find a 4-leaf clover, and it seemed to her that Demian never played with friends. But he says that he has 2 friends, and that's just great. Let him then tell her the name of the second one. She's going to meet them both. After thinking for a bit, the guy replied that he didn't exist. If you think about it, Russell is just his classmate, with whom they go to the academy together. Celine was surprised. Then why did he ask? What did she get from him? That he only has one friend, as if he was a very popular person. Then I realized that he was probably very bored on vacation without friends. But it's not a big deal, and you can live perfectly well without them. She just expressed herself incorrectly at first, but the boy said that she was right. The young man has no friends at all, so he is always alone at home. But that was not true. The guy trains in fencing almost 24 hours a day. The young man also participates in various meetings as the successor of the Duke. After which he asked how long Celine had been arriving. The girl replied that she didn't know. She would probably be here until her father finished his business. Demian replied that it was just great, because it was the first time he felt so happy in Marion. He liked this life until he discovered one joy. After he went to the north, he became sadder. They say that kids from the same class create common memories, but he doesn't. The little one decided that he was crying, so she exclaimed that she would play with him, that from tomorrow she would go to fencing training in the morning, and then come play with him. Then she began to wipe away his feigned tears with a handkerchief, and tell him that everything would be fine. He would not be left alone anymore. There was no need to cry. Sometime later, before going to bed, her father asked her if she had forgotten what her mother had told her. The girl replied that there was no need to cause trouble for the Willow family. The man stroked her head and said that she remembered everything perfectly. She needed to behave as well as she was grateful that they were accommodated in the main house. Then he hugged her and added that if he kept his promise to the end, he would give her a good gift. Before Dad left, the little girl decided to clarify whether they would continue their morning fencing training. The man replied that, of course, because he had to support his daughter in what she was trying so hard to do. The next day, the man thought that he could not even imagine that they would eat together with the Duke. Of all the Duke's servants, he is the closest to him, but in the relationship between servant and master, there is always an insurmountable wall. No matter how close their relationship is, they cannot live like a family. His thoughts were interrupted by his daughter's voice, who asked how he knew the way to the training hall. The Baron replied that he had accompanied the Duke there several times, and that was how he had learned the way. When the little girl suddenly opened the doors, she saw the Duke's successor right in front of her, which surprised her very much. The man immediately began to make excuses that he didn't know that he was training here at this time. Then they would go. But Debutant objected that he waited for them because he wanted them to watch his morning training. Mars couldn't understand what was wrong with him. Was he always such a smiling child? When they met before, the boy was very serious. Then he asked if he wanted the Baron to evaluate the training of the Duke's successor. The guy replied that he did. The Baron wondered to himself why he was evaluating someone whose skills were so high that he was recognized in the capital as a fencing genius, after which he bowed and said that he did not think that he could not teach him anything. Suddenly, his daughter intervened in the conversation and said that a newbie like him would not be able to learn anything from her father. Just one look at this hall makes everything clear. It's too clean around. It's obvious that they don't train here often. In fact, training in this room took place very often. It was just always kept clean and tidy. Our heroine stated that he heard that she trains in the mornings and also came. The boy replied that, for sure. Celine is very smart, but the Baron did not understand why the Duke's successor was lying now. The little girl said that since her father was an excellent swordsman, it would be difficult for him to keep up with him. What should he do then? He needed to train every day. Then she exclaimed that an idea had come to her mind. She would learn from her father, and he from her. The man was shocked by all this and asked what she was even saying now. The little one replied that he also wanted to learn fencing. Father began to push her out of the hall and say that he might not study. It would be better to leave here quickly. But the little one continued to say that in the night school they always said that if the weak decides to give up, then he will remain weak. Efforts do not betray. It is said that a person who puts in a lot of effort can achieve even greater results than someone who has exceptional abilities. The Duke's successor, although a newbie now, may be very talented, so she helps him. It's better to train together than alone. The Baron grabbed his head. As the greatest fencing genius in the history of the Empire, one could say that he could be quite talented. Celine added that there is no need to be upset about what her father said. He is just very strict about everything related to fencing. The young man told the Baron that he would try to make sure that someday he could study with him, so if it were possible to train with them in the mornings. The man completely stopped understanding what was happening, so he stuttered and replied that, of course, it was possible. When they took up wooden swords, the little girl asked the Duke's successor what he thought was most important in the swing. The boy replied that he was not sure and did not know. The girl adjusted his elbow and explained that if he held his hands at that angle, the force would be directed towards the sword. If you strike in this way, it will be very strong. Debutant noted that this sound was very cool. The girl thanked him and thought to herself that in fact it was the first time she did it so well. Then she added that if he tries, he will do as well as she did. Let him try again. The father, who was watching all this, realized that the Duke's successor was behaving this way with his daughter on purpose, but why didn't he point out what she lacked? But still, the young man looked so happy. It seems the Baron has never seen him like this. After successfully completing the morning fencing training, her father asked if he could definitely leave her alone. The little girl answered that he really thought she was still a child. She had told him not to worry. The man noted to himself that objectively she was a child. Although he is very worried about her, he still cannot take her with him to work. When asked if she had forgotten what she had been asked to do, the little one replied that yes, not to cause inconvenience to the Duke's successor, after which she exclaimed that, in fact, it was he who was causing her inconvenience, and not she who was causing him inconvenience. After her father said her name loudly and menacingly, the girl immediately said that she understood that she shouldn't say that. When a voice came from behind the door that the preparations for the Duke's journey were completed, the father said that they would talk to her again when he returned, but the daughter objected that there was no need and would behave as he said. She was angry to herself that it was the young man who was behaving this way and not her. She has as many as 4 friends. It is lonely for the Duke's successor without friends. Upon seeing the little girl, the Duke said that he heard that they had trained well that morning and that she would become an outstanding swordsman. Our heroine did not expect praise from him, but thanked Willow for such words. On the way, the Duke said that from the expression on his daughter's face, it was clear that she had been scolded again. The father replied that he was worried that the child was forgetting herself, that etiquette should be observed between master and servant, but she was constantly breaking it. Meanwhile, the Duchess said she was very glad to see the baby. She was so sorry she could not meet her in the winter in Chaldea. Unfortunately, the woman is busy today, but would she like to go with her tomorrow and have some fun? Our heroine was taken aback by this turn of events and asked if she was really telling her that. The woman replied that, of course, she was so happy when she found out that the girl was coming, because she had always wanted a daughter for herself. But after she gave birth to her boring son, it so happened that she could no longer have children. "Let her just look at him. Why does he have such a boring reaction?" The maid said that my lady needs to hurry. As she was leaving, the Duchess waved goodbye to her and told her to think about where she wanted to go, but her assistant hurried her and said that because she was always late, there were bad rumors going around. Looking at the girl, frozen with her mouth open, Demian asked what was wrong with her, if anything hurt. When he wanted to touch her forehead, the baby immediately stepped back and said that she had no fever and was generally quite healthy. Celine couldn't understand why his smile suddenly became so similar to Milady's beautiful smile. It was definitely much stupider. When the girl turned back abruptly, Willow asked what they were going to do today. As she ran away, Mars shouted that she would be reading books all day, so let him do his own thing, like homework. After her escape, the boy asked the butler where he could take this child. The man noted to himself that this was the same question that Milady had asked him. If he answered exactly the same way, he would be pestered endlessly for it later, so he asked if he could think about it a little and answer later, to which he received the answer, "Fine." Suddenly, the maid raised her hand and said that she had a little sister the same age as her. The young man looked at her with a withering gaze and asked, "So what next?" The maid began to stutter and mumble that a circus was currently visiting the outskirts of the capital. "There is a festival going on near the place where the tent is pitched. Maybe she will like it there." The young man noted that this was a pretty good idea. Perhaps it was worth going there. When the guy looked in on her, the little girl immediately said that she was busy now. She had to study, so please let him not disturb her. Demian said he just wanted to tell her something that she might like. They say that a circus has arrived on the southern outskirts of the capital. Would she like to go there with it? In fact, the girl really wanted to go there, but she muttered that she needed to do her homework. The young man added that they say that at the market near the circus, the atmosphere is like at a festival. But they can't go because she has to study, because in order to become a cool knight, the little one has to do her homework. The girl answered dejectedly that it was true. She had to finish with everything, but the Duke's successor thought to himself that he had gone too far. So he said that it seemed like the night school had very high standards. Celine countered that it wasn't too difficult. She usually handled such tasks quickly. It was just that this time the last one was very difficult. The boy looked into her notebook and said that she had very beautiful handwriting, but what was written in this corner? It dawned on the little girl that in the previous equation she had written 728, but why then did she add 128 in the next one? After that, she quickly began to fix everything and happily announced that she was almost finished. As the guy headed for the door, Mars asked where he was going. He replied that he wanted to go see the circus since he was in town. He will have to go alone because he has absolutely no friends, but if he had, they would go together. The little girl felt sorry for him, so she exclaimed that she had already finished doing her homework and had a little time left. If he has no one to go to the festival with, then she can do it, and not at all because she just wants to see the circus. And in general, they need to go together, since she must protect him. After some time, Celine looked around and admiringly asked the Duke's successor to look at what she was showing him. The boy said that most of the people at the festival would be commoners, so it would be better not to call him the Duke's successor in front of them. Our heroine replied that okay and thought to herself that apparently, here too, commoners cannot just communicate with aristocrats. Then she added that they sell balloons on that side. Why don't they go and see them? When she ran closer, the clown said that one balloon cost 50 silver coins. The little girl immediately changed her mind and said that it would be better for her and Demian to go somewhere else. The young man was surprised. Didn't she want a balloon? The girl sadly answered that no, everything was perfectly fine. Willow said that if she didn't have enough money, he could buy it, but the girl objected that her mother said that monetary relations with people should be conducted carefully and that asking someone to buy something causes inconvenience. The guy objected that it didn't cause him any inconvenience, but our heroine disagreed with him and said that it wasn't so. The boy replied that he had also caused her inconvenience then, because she had given him a sapphire, but the little one objected that it was a gift. Demian said that yes, but financial relations with people must be conducted carefully, and in return he did not give her anything. It turns out that he caused her great inconvenience, doesn't it? Let her please give him a chance to make amends to her. He listened to her and felt so bad at heart because everything turned out this way. Our heroine was surprised that he would really feel better if she gave him such a chance. The young man answered that yes, would she allow him to buy a balloon. Then he began to turn to the seller and say that he didn't need change. The little girl screamed that she had told him that it was not necessary, that such behavior would cause inconvenience to the man with the balloons. Don't burden a person you see for the first time. Let him quickly take the change. On the way, the young man thought that this girl was so special, and it touched him very much. Noticing that she kept looking at her hair ornament, Demian asked her if she liked it. Celine replied that no, she just thought Bella would like this color. My friend would obviously really like it here, and Chico with Mia and Johan. The young man said that then they would buy this too, because sapphire is a very expensive stone, and there would not be enough money to cover its cost, even if they bought everything at this festival. Let her come and help him because he doesn't know what the kids like. If an expert like her helps him, then they'll quickly get it done. Looking at one of the hair ties, the girl thought to herself that it was definitely not this one, since it was necessary to save the pocket money of the Duke's successor. The girl thanked them for the purchase and put that very hairband on her hand, saying that it was a gift for her, because she thought that such decoration would be very suitable for a little lady. Celine objected that she couldn't just accept it, but the woman replied that it was okay. It was her first time making them and she didn't think she could sell them, so she was very glad that they bought them. The boy said that he could buy this too if he needed to, but the little girl replied that there was no need to buy anything else, because if they spent more, it would be inconvenient for him. Then they saw some kind of game in front of them and a huge teddy bear as a prize, so the girl wanted to come closer and take a look. The little one noted that these wooden targets looked very heavy. They probably put lead inside the wood. I thought to myself that in order to shoot down heavy lead, you need to aim at the edges. This makes it easier to move the target, but everyone is trying to hit only the center, so that guy can't do it. The young man asked if she would like to try, for example. He would be interested in trying to knock down a couple of times. Our heroine thought to herself that she would also really like to, but unfortunately she had absolutely no money. Standing in front of the targets, Demian thought that this was a game in which you need to flip 10 targets to get a prize. I wonder if the girl will be happy if he gives her that teddy bear, after which he throws it. But no matter how hard the young man tried, he was unable to turn over almost anything except one thing. Our heroine didn't like the ridicule around her, that he tried but it didn't work out. No big deal because he's still little. So she immediately approached the Duke's successor and asked if he could please lend her 10 silver coins. The guy was glad that everything was going as he planned, but she was definitely hurt by the fact that everyone was laughing at him now. She was immediately given 12 spears since she was a lady, 2 to go with it, and they added that if she turned over 10 targets, the bear cub would belong to her. The Duke's successor asked if she could cope. Perhaps it would be better to surrender. The girl asked why. After all, you can try, after which she tied her hair and said that there was no need to worry, because she would succeed. She thought to herself that she shouldn't use force to turn over the targets, as adults did. Demian, who was about equal in strength to her, threw a spear for the first time and everything worked out, so she would throw it in exactly the same way. Her plan was effective, so the wooden block began to fall, and everyone exclaimed that such a tiny thing had done a great job. They thought it was some kind of trick, but it turns out they just threw it wrong. The second target fell, then the third one fell. The seller was not at all happy that this little girl had figured out what to do. Demian noted to himself that she was doing better than he thought. The little one was handling these spears so well, even though they were made of rubber, since this was the first time she had ever held them. It's quite noisy here, but she's very focused, perfectly copying a pose she's only seen briefly. He thought she was still a little child trying to talk like an adult. It seemed like his future night protector had much more potential than he seemed. After a short period of time, it was announced that it had worked. This little girl had knocked out all 10 targets. When she was given the prize, the girl asked if there were any more prizes. The man replied that there were a lot of them left. After he took out one of them, her voice was heard exclaiming that Chico would really like that color. As a result, the little girl earned a large number of huge multicolored teddy bears. After a while, they sat down on a bench to rest, and our heroine said that she was very thirsty. Suddenly, a man who was standing nearby told her to come to him for juice. He saw how she hit the targets and wants to buy her a glass so that she can drink it with her friend. Our heroine immediately ran towards him and said that she would be right back. Willow thought to himself if she had fun today, he wanted to create good memories for her about the capital, just as she gave him great memories about the North. Since he doesn't plan to live in the North when he grows up, Celine, as a night defender, will have to move here. Until then, it is necessary to create for her as many pleasant memories of the capital as possible. The thoughts were interrupted by the voice of the assistant, who asked if he should move all the things. The boy said to leave only this teddy bear. The man said that, okay, since there are a lot of things, it might be inconvenient for them to travel in the carriage, so he will take them to the mansion and come back for them. Just then, a little girl came running back, saying that she was late because her uncles asked her to tell them how to throw spears, but she brought some delicious juice. They said it was made from banana and strawberry, so it was very tasty. Then she apologized and added that she drank her share on the way back. She was giving it to him because her uncles bought it for her. Then she asked where all the things had gone. The guy explained that he had ordered them to be taken home, and he had left this bear because it belonged to him, so he wanted to take it himself. He was told that the toy was worth more than 5 gold pieces. He was causing inconvenience again. What should he do now? The little one objected that there was no need to worry about it, only she could not cause him inconvenience. Celine will become his night protector when she grows up, then he will bring her inconvenience even more often than now, so there is no point in worrying. And in general, it is unlikely that they will meet again until she becomes an adult. Demian immediately said that it would be great if she lived in the capital. The little girl objected that she lives in the north. She noted to herself that he seemed very happy that she had come, and that he had someone to play with, since he had absolutely no friends. Perhaps he would not be so lonely if at least one good friend did not appear. What was the name of that student from the academy he was talking about last time? I think it was Russell Ryder. It would be nice to meet him. After which she said that she would play with him while she was here, by the way. A circus performance would soon begin in that tent. Let him come to the north when the holidays begin. The other boys will be glad to see him too. The young man asked if she would ever come to him again if he went north. The little girl replied that she would hardly be able to do it herself, but if her father allowed her to go with him, then of course. The young man thought to himself that she was 10 years old and still had the same amount of time left until she came of age. She was very attached to Marion, and he needed to think carefully about how to make her want to live in the capital herself. When they entered the house, the little girl admired how great it was, how they flew in the air. Probably even with this net below, it was still scary. And the lion was so big, it seems to her that she too could balance on the ball. Suddenly they stopped talking. Because their parents were waiting for them at the entrance, the children could not understand why they were gathered there. The father immediately exclaimed angrily that she had promised to behave appropriately, but the daughter objected that this was not so. The little girl did not promise to behave like this. He told her not to cause inconvenience to the Duke's successor, but did not talk about behavior. Noticing the teddy bear in her son's hands, the Duchess asked what it was, and the boy explained that Celine had won a prize. The girl immediately began to babble that she had given the Duke's successor a prize that she had won in a game. And she also won those bear cubs. Hitting all the targets, she wants to give them to her friends. The woman noted that one of them was so cute that our heroine immediately offered to give it to her. Demian intervened in the conversation and said that it was impossible. The baby deserved it, so it was impossible for her not to have a teddy bear. Celine thought to herself that she thought he was indecisive and weak, but in fact, he was stubborn. The Duke coughed and asked if she knew that a knight defender must protect not only the body of his master, but also his soul. When she replied that yes, the man asked her what she should do to make Willow feel better. Our heroine sighed heavily and replied that she would keep the bear cub for herself. The man stated that she still had 4 toys she had won, and was she going to give them to her friends in Marion? If so, then it turns out that she is the only one who won't have a teddy bear, and that won't make sense. She won them so that everyone would have teddy bears. The little girl muttered that it was actually okay. She thought to herself that she really wanted to keep him, but she shouldn't show it. A knight should be generous to a lady, but she wanted to take him home and show him to her mother. Suddenly, the Duchess said that she thought this teddy bear suited her better, so tomorrow she would go buy another toy. It would be great if Celine helped her choose. Our heroine exclaimed that of course it would help. Is it true that there are stores in the capital that only sell toys? The woman replied that yes, so they could also have desserts since they would be traveling together. Suddenly, a young man interrupted their conversation and said that he also wanted to go with them tomorrow to choose a teddy bear and eat dessert, but he noted to himself that he could not send them away, since every minute was valuable. After some time, the guy asked her if she liked parfait, which is ice cream in a glass cup decorated with fruits and cookies. When the girl asked if he had tried it, the boy thought to himself that he had in fact simply repeated what Russell had told him. Redder. The mother intervened in the conversation and said that he had not tried it because he had no one to eat it with, and she noted to herself that her boring son did not have a single close friend. Then she hugged the girl and said that they would all go eat parfait together today. Mars turned to the boy and said that she would go with them, so that he would not feel lonely. Demian thought to himself that it seemed that she was again in her strange delusions. When they approached the carriage and the Duke's successor offered her his hand, the little girl replied that she was no longer a child and could easily climb in herself. Inside the carriage, the woman said that she heard that there was a place in town that served very tasty parfait, so they would go there. As they were walking, our heroine noticed that all the people were looking at the Duchess. I wonder if it bothers her. It must be hard being so famous. The woman said that eating cold food first thing in the morning is not very healthy, but since it is summer, everything will be fine, won't it? The little girl replied that yes, besides, she is from the north and therefore tolerates cold food very well. When they entered the cafeteria, the seller immediately asked what they would like to order. The Duchess said that she had heard that this place had very tasty parfait. The girl did not understand what such a noble lady was doing here. Perhaps she came to show her children what ordinary people eat. After which she said that she would bring them 3 parfaits, and they should tell her if they wanted anything else. Suddenly the young man called out to her, and the waitress asked if he wanted to order anything else. The Duke's successor replied that yes, and pointed her finger at a scone that was in the display case. Having heard all this, our heroine immediately froze, as if rooted to the spot. Mother asked in surprise if Demian would really eat it, but her son objected that no, it was Celine who loved him, not him. When they were in the north, the little girl often talked about him to the other children. Mars thought to herself that she actually meant him when she talked about scone. The Duchess immediately said that she would order the cook to cook them constantly from tomorrow. The little one tried to object that it was not necessary. The woman said that there was no need to refuse, because they had a cook from God, and who here doesn't know that she is a duchess, there is no need to call her that all the time. The girl won't constantly call her friend's mother. The friend's mother, in fact, would really like to have a daughter like her. Celine immediately remembered how in the evening before going to bed, the man asked how he should answer if his father invited him to play the Duke. The little girl asked if he should agree. The Baron objected that it was wrong. He could play with the Duke if he was his friend, but who was he really to Willow? The girl answered that he was a knight protector for him, and the Duke was a lord for the Pope. The father answered that it was true, therefore the answer was to refuse. A lord and a servant cannot be close friends. The Duke's successor will be engaged and married in a few years. In other words, he will have the same closest friend as his mother. There is no risk that a servant could take this place. What will she feel if he has a friend as close as her mother? The little girl muttered that she thinks she will feel very bad. The man continued that if she feels bad, she should imagine how bad that person's mother would feel. Our heroine interrupted him sharply and asked if he had by any chance made another girlfriend. The Baron objected that this was not the case. He simply gave an example to explain it to her. The father thought to himself that it was dangerous to get closer to the Duke's successor than necessary because it might develop into love, and his daughter might be offended. So he muttered that it would be better if she were a boy. In fact, her father was very worried about her and did not want her to suffer, but since the little one did not know about this, these words upset her very much. Noticing that the little one was thinking about something, the Duchess asked what was wrong with her. Maybe she had said something wrong. Celine burst into tears and said that her dad told her that it would have been better if he had had a son. The woman replied that she must have simply misunderstood something, because that couldn't be. The Baron was crazy about his daughter, but the little girl said that it was true. Plus, it seems to her that he has another girlfriend besides her biological mother. The Duchess spends most of her time in the capital, away from her husband, because she cannot leave her son alone. There are 3 words that she hates more than anything else in the world, and these are treason, infidelity, and debauchery. The woman immediately got ready to go somewhere and told her son to eat parfait with the girl, but she needed to leave for a short time to talk to one person. The young man tried to persuade her to stop crying and try this dessert, because it looked very tasty. But the little girl replied that he could eat it himself. After thinking for a while, the young man said that if she wouldn't, then he wouldn't either, so let him open his mouth. The girl finally agreed and said that it was very tasty, although too sweet. Meanwhile, the Duchess angrily asked what Baron Mars could possibly answer in his defense. When he mumbled something unintelligible, the woman interrupted him and said that it was enough. She would ask questions. The Duchess heard that he was cheating on his own wife. How could he do that to her? While our heroine's father didn't understand what was going on, Willow jumped up and exclaimed that he didn't know he was such a person, although people make mistakes, but this was too much. Demian's mother hissed, "What did they just say? How can they call it a mistake?" She understands that, apparently in the north this is considered simply a mistake. Her husband immediately exclaimed that, no, of course, this should be punishable by death. Baron Mars exclaimed that this was unfair, because he loved only his wife. The woman said that Celine told her that her dad had another girlfriend besides her mom, and that he wished he had a son instead of a daughter. How could he say something like that to such a sweet girl? After some time, the Duchess returned to the cafe, accompanied by the boys' fathers, and asked if the parfait was tasty. The man said that he was told that she was very upset because her father told her that Mars did not mean this, and he wanted to apologize because he was wrong. The Baron did not want her to be a son, and he said this because he was worried that her loyalty might be questioned. People can very easily be mistaken, and even take her devotion to the Duke's successor for love. This may turn out to be true sooner or later. Such a feeling may arise because they constantly spend time together, and this is not befitting a knight. The little one exclaimed that she would actually become the protector of the Duke's successor. How could she feel anything other than devotion towards such a person? It would be a disgrace for a knight. Demian laughed nervously and replied that she was right. They didn't have that kind of relationship, so there was no need to worry. The little girl added that they would even swear that if she suddenly fell in love with the Duke's successor, something terrible and horrible would happen to her. For the rest of the summer, the boys practiced fencing together every morning. The Baron could never understand why the Duke's successor hid his skills from his daughter and continued to train with them. He came to the conclusion that just as the Duchess, who had only a son, loved Celine as if she were her own daughter, Demian saw in her the younger sister he never had, and continued to think so. Time passed, and the last day of the holidays arrived. After the carriage loaded with gifts from the Duchess left the Duke's mansion, the once lively estate became unusually quiet. Before leaving, the girl handed him a letter and told him to read it only after she left, after which she smiled goodbye and said that she would see him again next winter. It was written there, will he stop training in the mornings when the baby leaves, so she leaves him this letter. The young man immediately thought to himself that this would definitely not happen, since he would train more than she did. The little one wrote that he must definitely train according to the list that she wrote for him. This is the method that she and her mother use. After each training session, you need to draw an apple in the cage, so you can check how well he tried. If he fills in all the cells before they meet again, then she will give him something good. And finally, let him not forget to repeat to himself 100 times every day before going to bed that he can do anything. What he lacks is self-confidence. The guy didn't understand what this feeling was. He thought she was a very sweet girl and wanted to treat her well because she was so sweet. An absurd child who exceeded all his expectations from the very first time they met. It was very funny to watch how she believed his awkward acting and nothing more. But after her words about how she could have any feelings for such a person other than devotion, for some reason he felt his heart tremble and despair gripped him. What really hurt him was the words that she wouldn't feel anything but devotion towards him, which is usually how many people tell him they like him. What does he regret then? And even if he knows it, what is it about this girl that makes him want to be near her? Then it dawned on him that this was the very feeling when a person begins to like someone. But will he be able to confess this to the girl? Although, of course, this is impossible because even a fool can understand how it will all end. But perhaps it is simply worth making the impossible possible. Although it seems to him that even possible will not be enough, he will make it so that it is inevitable. After some time, Debutant told his friend that he wanted to know a way to win the girl's favor. When there was a pause, the guy said that if he didn't know, then he should forget what had been said. Russell exclaimed that he knew. He has 4 older sisters, and he knows that they like it when girls get gifts. Let him give her something that she might like, perhaps perfume or a bouquet of beautiful flowers. When asked what he was doing, the young man replied that he was writing it down so he could think about it before he got home. Ryder asked if he really wanted to be friends with that girl that much. When he started listing names to guess, Debutant said that he didn't need to know, but he thought to himself that he understood perfectly well what his reaction would be when they said that he liked a girl 3 years younger. Russell continued that gifts are the easiest way to win someone's favor, but the most important thing when you want to be friends with a girl is not to be unpleasant to her. That is, do not do anything that she might not like. For example, do not lie, because who would like someone who constantly tells lies? Such a person cannot be trusted. The young man asked what if it was a lie due to the circumstances. The friend objected that the circumstances could be explained, so why lie? He feels disgust towards liars, especially those who lie to please. The mere thought of being around such a person gives him goosebumps. If, nevertheless, circumstances developed in such a way that you had to lie, then it is better never to be exposed. After some time, Debutant thought that he started lying simply because she had an interesting reaction. Perhaps he should have appeared before her in a cool image from the very beginning. Then she would have looked at him with respect. Their relationship wouldn't have turned out like this, and she wouldn't have gotten mad at him. But nothing can be changed anyway, so it is simply necessary to try in the future. Then I remembered about the gift and thought that there is only one thing that Celine might like. These are not light swords that adults use, they are suitable for him, but for a baby they are too heavy. You can choose, for example, a rapier or a saber, but it seems she would like the same sword as her father. After which he asked if these were all the good swords they had. The assistant replied that they were. When asked where the ones he used as a child had gone, the man replied that the Duchess had ordered them to be put away, but there was one item he had been told to keep because it was too valuable. When asked which one exactly, the servant replied that it was what the Academy had given him as a gift in honor of his admission when he was 10 years old. Then he found the necessary chest and reported that they say that this sword is the only one of its kind. He was told to keep it, as it could not be sold, as it could be considered as disrespect for both ideas. Debutant noted to himself that they said that in the Academy this sword was passed down from generation to generation. He stopped using it after he grew up because the blade was too short and light, after which he came to the conclusion that it would be perfect. The assistant asked what for, and he answered that for a gift. The man was indignant. How could he give such a valuable thing? The young man replied that he really should ask his permission to give someone something that belongs to him. Let him just wrap it. Suddenly, a servant burst into the Duchess's room and exclaimed that they had problems. The women lazily asked what happened. The assistant reported that the young gentleman wanted to re-present the gift that the director of the Academy personally gave him. The Duchess asked if he was talking about the sword he had stopped using because it was too light. He no longer needed it, so what difference did it make? It was clear to whom he had decided to give it, of course to Celine. When the servant added that the young master apparently wanted to send it as a gift for her birthday, the woman immediately jumped up and asked again how many days were left until this holiday. Without waiting for an answer, she immediately began to get up and lament that this was just a nightmare, and that there was absolutely no time to rest. They are going to the city right now, so let him prepare the carriage immediately. In the Duchess's room by the window stood the very same flowers that the girl had made herself out of paper, because she had been told that her birthday was coming soon. The little girl wanted to give her at least something, because the woman had taken care of her all summer. Mars gave her such a cool gift, so she should give her something similar too. Meanwhile, Demian was thinking about what words to write in the note. Sometimes they were too burdensome, sometimes it immediately became clear that he liked her. So I just wrote happy birthday and decided that maybe that was the most appropriate. He couldn't know since it was the first time he wrote something like that. The young man really hopes that Celine will be happy with the gift he will give her. After some time, our heroine said that she was uncomfortable. Bella exclaimed that, so what, today is her birthday, so she should be the most beautiful, let her not move and she will tie her hair. The baby is still the daughter of aristocrats, so how can she only wear sloppy clothes all the time? Johann agreed with her words, let him say at least something. The boy replied that he thought that ordinary clothes would suit her. Bella was indignant. Why did she even ask the opinion of the gunsmith's son? The guy immediately added that of course, he thought that the clothes she had chosen were also suitable. Celine objected that she would become a knight. The friend exclaimed that it was enough to grumble, let her go quickly, because the Baron and Baroness were probably waiting. Our heroine thanked her for everything and said that she would return a little later. When she went out into the courtyard, she saw the Duke's carriage, so she was surprised why he had come to visit them. Upon seeing him, the little girl immediately bowed and said hello, and the man noted that she was just in time, because he wanted to show her something. Then he ordered the butler to immediately take everything he had brought to the estate. Looking at the beautiful red dress and the small box, our heroine asked what it was. The man replied that these were gifts that the Duchess had sent her. She wanted to give her something equivalent to the flowers she had given her last time. Ordinary flowers fade and need to be thrown away, but the ones she gave are still standing and making his wife happy. The little one objected that they would not compare with the care the Duchess had shown her all summer, and that she would hardly have occasion for such clothes. The Duke informed her that this winter the Duchess and Demian were going to come to Chaldea. So let her come to them in this dress. Our heroine asked in surprise, is it really possible for her to go there? Having received an affirmative answer, the little one immediately ran to her mother to ask if she could go there. Her father immediately said that she would most likely remain like this until dinner was over. The Duke replied that then he could give her a gift from his son after the meal. The Baron was surprised that Demian had also sent her a gift. The Duke replied that, yes, he seemed to like her very much. After some time, when the little girl blew out the candles on the cake, her mother asked her if she had made a wish. Our heroine replied that she wished that this year she would become even better at swinging her sword the second time. Hearing this, the Duke said that the time had come to present a gift from him and his son. Let him open it quickly, because the birthday girl will obviously like it very much. The sword is a gift from Demian, and the sheath is from him. They are made of a special metal processed at the academy. It is lighter than usual, so it will be easy for her to carry it with her. The Baron jumped up from his seat and exclaimed that they could not accept such a gift, but the Duke objected that everything was fine. This weapon had been lying in the warehouse for a long time and had been completely forgotten. But this does not mean that the sword is bad. I thought to myself that if I had honestly said that this sword was a gift from the academy, then he would definitely have been very upset when he finally realized that he was not a commoner, but an aristocrat. After which he added that Celine would soon start training with a real sword anyway, maybe she should start a little earlier. The Baron replied that he could not refuse him, but if his daughter did something dangerous, he would take it away at that very moment. The little girl exclaimed that there was no need to worry. After this, the girl immediately ran to try the sword, but found another note in the box. In addition to the inscription Happy Birthday, there was also a piece of paper with apples and training dates drawn on it. It had more cells filled in than hers. When she first met him, she thought that he was weak and pathetic, but after seeing how Demian doesn't give up and keeps trying, she begins to think that he will become a great swordsman one day. Our heroine must not lose under any circumstances, so she must try even harder. This sword is forged from metal, but it is definitely lighter than the wooden ones she usually uses. It feels like it was made especially for her. A few days later, a friend asked what kind of letters he sends every day. I wonder what kind of girl charmed Demian Willow. Then he began to read that she had mastered the second swing of the sword today, and when he came next time, he would show her how to do it, since today she had mastered the second swing and sharpened the sword. When he comes to the north, they will look after him together, because if the blade gets dull, it may hinder the improvement of skills. Russell muttered in confusion. What other fencing skills could she have? After which he stated that this meant he was going north during these winter holidays. Then, as if hinting, he began to say that, and where should he go on this vacation? But Demian pretended not to understand. Since he always went to warm places, he suddenly wanted to go to the north because it was very interesting. Unexpectedly, Willow replied that they could go together, but there was one condition. When the guy told him everything, Russell summed up that the girl thought he was very fragile, held his sword poorly, and smiled like a fool. After which he laughed loudly and added that all he had to do was pretend to make fun of him, and Demian began to think to himself whether he had done the right thing in allowing him to go with him. After Ryder calmed down, he said that there was no need to worry because he would play everything well and he could be trusted. Upon arrival at his destination, the young man began to assess the situation around him. Only 3 girls and 2 boys came out to greet them near the estate. Among the females, this one is too small, so she can clearly be excluded. So the one Demian fell in love with is definitely one of these 2. I think her name is Celine Mars. If she has a last name, then it means that she is an aristocrat. It turns out that it is the pink-haired one, after which he said that it was an honor for him to meet her and kissed her hand. After this, the girl quietly said that she felt goosebumps running down her body, and the baby noted that it was true that goosebumps run down her body when you do something nauseating. Russell quietly asked what he had done wrong. Demian replied that it had been in many ways because Celine Mars is that girl. Ryder said that this red-haired person looks like a commoner, so it turns out that he was sending letters to her. Regardless of what the children's first impression of Russell was, they treated him well, perhaps because they knew he was Scone's only friend. However, he belittled him and said that even in his team Demian was losing. Did he really want to ruin everything? The young man doesn't even know how to do this. What a sissy! How is this even possible? The uninvited guest from the capital behaved in such a way that it was difficult to call him a friend, so the children gradually began to frown. No matter what Marion's children played, he was always the best at everything, and so discontent inevitably accumulated. Although the one who was pretending did not understand it, it was becoming more and more difficult for the children to tolerate his arrogance, and only half a day had passed since their arrival. Bella asked if there was anything at all that this boy Russell had not played, because he knows everything. At this time, Ryder suggested playing pancakes, and when he heard that Demian didn't know what to do, he exclaimed that how could he not know that? Our heroine immediately intervened in their conversation and said that she would teach the Duke's successor everything. This is a game where you have to throw stones into water so that they bounce back. The one whose stone bounces off the water the most times wins. Willow asked what her record for pancakes was. The little girl answered that it was 5 times, but in general, Johann is doing well. Russell was so absorbed in his role that he mockingly declared that he would definitely break her record today because 5 times is just ridiculous. After which the young man threw a pebble, which bounced off the water 13 times. Then he turned to Demian and asked if he could do more, although he didn't think he could, since he couldn't do anything properly. Our heroine couldn't take it anymore, covered him with her body and screamed that enough was enough. How much more could this go on? Out of resentment for the Duke's successor, tears began to choke her, but it was shameful to cry in front of everyone. Therefore she simply began to run away towards the forest and did not react when her name was called. Demian realized that something went wrong, so he asked where she ran, but the little girl did not answer, so he went after her. Bella's voice was heard behind Ryder, who hissed that they urgently needed to talk. After some time, Willow found the baby sitting near a tree. When he noticed a scratch on her knee, the girl explained that she had fallen. Demian was indignant that he needed to be more careful, because what would he do if there was a scar left? Then asked if there was something that happened that he didn't know about, or if it was because he wasn't doing as well as Russell. Our heroine replied that it wasn't because of that, she just didn't like his friend at all. Is Demian a fool or something? Why doesn't he do anything about it? He's not his friend if he says such nasty things. She is his knight protector and therefore wanted to wipe his nose, but he is doing so well. Let her not bring him to play with them next time. The young man is such a good person, and Ryder does not understand this. The guy thanked her for thinking so. Then he sat down next to her and asked if he should stop being friends with him. The little one answered that he didn't need such a bad friend at all. Willow added that if she didn't like him so much, she wouldn't play with him anymore. At this time, Russell felt extremely uncomfortable under the withering glances and wondered if he was doing everything right, and when Demian would finally come back. The guys pressed him and said that you can't laugh at the Duke's successor because he's his friend, even if he's better at something, and in general Demian is a scone. Ryder didn't understand what kind of scone it was, but he did everything as the young man asked him to. Upon seeing our heroine, they immediately began asking if everything was okay. The girl apologized for running away, and if they were very scared. Bella immediately poked Russell in the side and angrily told him to start talking immediately. The young man began to carefully ask for forgiveness and say that he was wrong. Celine asked in what exactly. The young man added that he thought to himself that it was his own fault that he had been rude to Demian. The little girl asked whether he was apologizing from the bottom of his heart or whether it was just words. But suddenly the Duke's successor interrupted her and said that it was too late. He decided that he did not want to be friends with him. Demian realized that he shouldn't be friends with those who treat him very badly and make fun of him. Bella immediately began to whisper to him to say exactly that very thing. The guy collected his thoughts and said that it wouldn't happen again, that she shouldn't be offended by him anymore, and that he should forgive him. The Duke's successor decided to consult with our heroine and asked how he should act in this situation. He thought to himself that he would like Celine to worry about him even more. Mars didn't understand what to do, whether she should forgive him, because a complete fight would also be bad. After which she said that there was no need to do that anymore, and she had a small request, as he knows the Duke's successor does not have many friends. Maybe that's why he gets lonely. The girl really wants Russell to become a good friend for him. Will he be able to do this? The young man was at first confused, but then replied that he agreed to this condition. During the entire winter holidays, he and Demian went to Marion every day. After the apology, the children began to treat him better. The games with them were completely different from those played by the children of aristocrats. In fact, he had a lot of fun. After some time, the guy asked how long he was going to continue lying. As Ryder understood, Celine would then become his night protector, which meant that sooner or later, everything would come to light. The young man asked what he was offering him. Perhaps he should say that he was a genius in swordsmanship, very strong and in general not what she thought of him. It is still too early for this. Let a little more time pass. He will tell her when he is absolutely sure that the time has come. Russell thought to himself that he thought it was better to tell her right now. She shouldn't get angry if he sincerely apologized. Just look at the reasoning of this cruel person. It was right after Demian entered the academy. His first impression of him had not changed at all. A dry and boring boy who was not interested in anything in the world. He knew how to be friendly when he needed to be, but he was not sincere and always drew the line, although after the last winter holidays the guy began to change. He began to pay attention to things that he didn't care about, and said that the Northern Night School would soon be on vacation, and let him tell him how to win the girls' favor. He also became interested in things he had not been interested in before. He began to value ordinary letters and a piece of glass as a treasure. The young man was convinced of this when he came here. Spring has come to the young man's soul, but as far as he knows, Baron Mars's mother was a commoner. He is a baron, but he has little influence in high society, and in the future various families will try to marry their daughters to the Duke's successor. And suddenly the daughter of a village baron becomes a duchess. It will not be so easy. Besides, Celine is not just a young lady, she is also a future knight defender. Everything is very complicated. The young man asked why he was looking at him so strangely. They had already arrived, so they needed to get out. Already on the street, Russell said that he understood him, so let him hold on. The guy asked what happened. Ryder retorted that, "Is there a reason to support a friend?" After some time, Demian received a letter. Celine wrote that several years had passed since their last meeting. It seemed as if only yesterday she was invited to the Duke's residence in Chaldea. All the guys from Marion are doing well. Johann, Bella, and she, this year completed the initial course at the night school. They decided not to continue their studies in order to concentrate on continuing the family business. She also decided not to take the advanced course and joined her father's knightly order and is learning to wield a sword. In the snowy mountains near Marion, strange cries are heard more and more often. She has doubts that these are just the cries of the animals living there. She is also worried that a reconnaissance team is sent there every year, but it is of no use. The girl heard that he would be coming north for the upcoming holidays. She hoped that he would be in good health until they met. Our heroine was already 15 years old, and she asked in surprise when Debutant had already managed to arrive. I noted to myself that he still had the same smile. How long will he smile like that? The young man said that he heard that she was appointed head teacher again. How cool she is. After which he handed her the box and said that it was a gift for such a cool student. The girl asked what it was. Maybe an elastic band or something like that. But the guy objected that it was not. Willow knows she's the kind of person who doesn't wear something like this because she's afraid of losing it. It's the new whetstone and oil for her sword. Celine last time said that it is very important to take care of the equipment. He was told that this oil was made by a foreign master. It does not leave moisture at all, so he thinks it will suit her. Mars thanked him and said that upon returning to Marion, she would use it and share her impressions with him. The young man asked her if she had changed her sword, since it seemed she had been using it for a very long time. Our heroine replied that it suited her so well that it was a pity to change it for any other. It even seems to her that the blade is becoming even longer, adjusting to her height. But this is impossible. She plans to use it during her apprenticeship, so she needs to take good care of his gift. Upon hearing this, the guy asked if this meant that she had entered the knightly order of Baron Mars. The girl replied that, yes, Celine had decided that she might not take the advanced course at the knightly school. It was very good in this educational institution, but he thinks that next to his father he will learn more in swordsmanship. The young man decided to check just in case whether she would become his knight protector, because this status requires more than just waving a sword. In fact, he would be very sorry if whoever takes over this position does not take the advanced course. And if she has a chance to get a better education than in the apprenticeship with the Baron, what will she do? The girl asked if she would have such a chance because she had said before that she had always thought that Chaldea was the largest place in the world. But now she knows that there are many places in the world that are larger than this, and the same is true for her. The Mars family are the only aristocrats in Chaldea, but there are many other barons outside. The only place she can get a better education than her father's is at the academy, but she understands that she cannot even dream of that. But there is no need to worry about it, because she is not upset, she is just happy with the opportunities she has. It's just a pity that when she becomes a knight's apprentice, it will be harder for her to see him like this. She likes learning fencing, but she does it because she wants to become a useful person for him. Then she asked if he was staying here during this holiday, since everyone missed him. The guy apologized and said that he needed to come back sometime next week because an urgent matter had come up. After some time, the man asked the young man if he was serious now. The young man responded by asking whether he really thought that Debutant had come to him just to joke. Then he put some document in front of him and said that it was a statement of expulsion. The man immediately began to say that he needed time to think. The guy said that he hoped that he would make an informed decision. After some time, our heroine's mother asked why the professor had suddenly called her and whether her daughter had done something wrong. The rector replied that, on the contrary, the academy invites Celine as a student. Of course, he already knows that Lady Mars has decided not to move on to the advanced course. Then he showed the invitation letter and said that such a thing had never happened in the history of the empire. When asked how to pay for the tuition, the man explained that there was no need to worry because it was free for the students who had transferred. The woman replied that, as he had said, she understood that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but they would not be able to buy a house in Red Brittle, and she doesn't want to let her daughter go to the capital alone. After which she asked if they had more time to think about it. The professor said until the end of the holidays. Our heroine's mother added that then they would think about it carefully and tell us about their decision. A little later, the girl thought that if she entered there, instead of becoming a knight's apprentice, she would definitely receive a better education there, and it will bring more benefit to the Duke's successor in the future. She should obviously accept this offer. But there is no dormitory there, because only aristocrats study at this academy. Although housing prices in the capital are low, it does not want to burden anyone. If she knew someone who was studying at the academy, she could ask. And suddenly something dawned on her. After a short period of time, the young man read a letter from someone. The Duchess asked why her boring son was in such a good mood, and the boy responded by asking if they had a spare room. When Mom answered that there were many of them, the guy said to order the best one of the free ones to be cleaned. The woman lazily asked why. Were they really going to have any important guests? The young man replied that he was thinking of inviting Celine to join them, since she had received an invitation to the academy, but he was hesitant because she had nowhere to live. Baron can't buy a mansion in Red Brittle, but even if he buys it, they don't want to send Celine alone, then the Baroness will have to come with her. But she herself knows very well how sad it is to live at a distance from a loved one. The woman was surprised to herself that she did not think that he could think about such a thing. The young man added that they could easily solve this problem, couldn't they? The Duchess immediately decided that it was necessary to give the order to begin repairs in the room opposite Demian's bedroom. After which Willow wrote to Celine that she doesn't have to worry about the housing issue. If she has any other concerns, let her tell him. Maybe he can help somehow. Even though she doesn't trust him yet. After a while, the Duke said that his wife had already begun preparing the room. Our heroine objected that she could not burden them like that. The man replied that it was useful for them to have such a capable person at their service. The world was changing. Most likely Demian will not do as he does, but will simply entrust the north to his servant and remain in the capital, because all aristocrats do that now. In that case, she, as his closest comrade, will need to get used to the capital if she intends to stay close to him in the future. She needs to learn how the aristocrats live in the capital and not just in the north. So isn't meeting aristocrats at the academy the best way to do this? The girl immediately remembered Demian's question about what would happen if she had a chance to get better training than the Baron's apprenticeship, and she realized that she had to seize this chance. For the sake of the Duke's successor and for herself, she wants to learn even more and become the coolest knight, because this is her dream. After which she said thank you, and added that thanks to him she made a decision, so she is entering the academy. The man said that this was the right decision, she would succeed, so she shouldn't worry. Now she would be busy with admission. After some time, the girl calmed the boys down and said that she was not leaving forever, so there was no need to exaggerate. Then she asked what was wrong with Bella, because she looked somehow unwell. The friend replied that she really didn't want her to leave either, because she might like the capital so much that Celine would be about them, but it was for her own good, so she couldn't hold her back. The girl will obviously achieve success, and friends should support each other. Mars must work hard. She is their leader. She must not lose to these capitals, and when she returns, he will sew her the most beautiful dress. Johann added that he will give her a good weapon. Our heroine was very touched by these words, so she said that she would write to them very often. The road to the capital did not seem as fun to her as the first time. There was a tearful farewell with her mother and father who stroked her head with such a sad look, and friends who experienced sadness each in their own way. She left behind all these people dear to her. But everything is fine. After parting, there will be a new meeting. Besides, there is a successor to the Duke, so everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Demian woke up early and decided to go see what room they had prepared for Celine. When I saw absolutely everything pink in front of me, I noted to myself what kind of taste the Duchess had. But Mars, although she tries to show that this is not so, but she also loves cute things, so she should like it. Suddenly, his mother's voice was heard, noting that he was also excited. The girl would arrive in the afternoon. Why shouldn't he sleep some more if he didn't want to walk around with bags under his eyes later? The young man replied that he knew she was saying that because she wanted to meet Celine earlier than him. But the woman is right, they need to sleep a little more, so they will see each other a little later at breakfast. The Duchess noted to herself that she was actually joking, but he took it so seriously how much he likes Mars. It turns out his son is really worried. In the afternoon, all the servants gathered at the entrance to the estate and solemnly greeted our heroine, who arrived at the residence of Duke Willow. When they put the decoration on her neck and handed her the cake, the girl couldn't understand what was going on. After the Duchess added that it was necessary to blow out the candle, Mars thought to herself that it was no longer her birthday. Then the young man led her to the room where she would live and asked if she liked it. Celine exclaimed that of course she did. But they could have given her any other room. Why try so hard? The guy said that she was not a stranger. How could they have given her an ordinary bedroom? The Duchess exclaimed, "Does she know how happy she was when she learned that the girl had entered the academy? Tomorrow they would go to the city, because they needed to take measurements for the uniform, order books, and other things for study." Celine held out the bag and said that her parents had just given her the money. The woman objected that she should keep it for herself. After all, she was a duchess. Did she really think that she couldn't buy her all this? She was told that she was going to become a knight's apprentice. Despite the barons urging her to take advanced courses, the girl overcame her stubbornness and left her homeland to become a more skilled assistant to her son. So does she really think that buying things for her will bring any inconvenience? Do they really have such a relationship with her? In fact, the woman thought that they were close enough. Our heroine tried to object, that she wanted to say something else. The woman added that it was a joke, but she had already decided that she would give her everything she needed to study at the academy. How about spending the money her parents gave her on gifts during the holidays? It seems that Mars is worried because she is separated from her parents and friends for the first time. She understands this perfectly well. Since she is constantly separated from her husband, there is no need to worry too much because she will definitely meet many good people. A little later, the girl noted that in the night school there was no need to wear such a good uniform, but now she felt that the truth was in the capital. Suddenly there was a knock at the door and Debutant said that he came to wake her up, as he was worried that he would oversleep and she had already gotten up. Celine was indignant. How could he say such a thing? Because she had never slept late in her life, the guy thought to himself, who then played with him until night every year during the summer holidays and then slept until lunch. Then he asked how she was in general, if she was afraid, because she would have to spend whole years with those she would meet for the first time. For her, it would be an unfamiliar environment, so he was worried. The girl replied that there was no need to worry, because improving relationships was also her job. Let the elder Debutant Willow please take care of her in the future. When the young man was giving her a tour, our heroine asked who used the top of that tower. Debutant replied that it seemed like no one. Because it was hard to climb up to the 30th floor, the girl noted that it sounded like doing a full workout. The young man replied that the residents of the capital do not care about their health as much as she does. Nowadays, few people use the tower, except for the first floors. They say that research is conducted there to create new materials, but among the capital's nobility, there are few students who choose a career in this field. He also heard that the assistants' rooms would be moved to the tower. The girl said that if she became a professor's assistant, she would ask for a room on the 30th floor. The curriculum here includes no more than 1/10 of the physical training taught in the night school, which means that you will not develop fencing skills here unless you put in the necessary effort yourself. The young man asked if she meant that she would climb up to the 30th floor instead of training. Celine exclaimed that this was exactly it. Then she added that she would go to the auditorium. Debutant was surprised because there was still a lot of time left. Our heroine replied that she needed to take out her books and prepare for the lesson before the teacher arrived, so she could concentrate better. The young man shook with laughter, and the girl asked what was funny. He apologized and said that it just seemed to him that she had not changed at all, then let her go to class, and they would see each other later. Looking around the audience, Celine noted that she would be studying here from today onwards, and that she needed to prepare in advance so as not to fall behind the others. Once inside, she immediately encountered the Duke of Arsem's youngest daughter, Claire. The girl immediately declared that the rumors were true. Could she really be that famous student who was transferred? Our heroine was surprised that they knew each other, after which she introduced herself and extended her hand, but there was no reaction in response. Instead, the girl just laughed and didn't say anything to her at all. Meanwhile, Russell said that he didn't think he would arrive so early. Debutant explained that he was showing Celine the academy. His friend was surprised that it was really necessary to do this right now. Seeing some papers on the table, Ryder asked what it was. The Duke's successor explained that it was personal information about the children of aristocrats who were studying in the Mars class. When asked why he needed this, the young man replied that how could he possibly not care about the girl at all? Russell grabbed his head and said that she would be fine anyway. Where did you see such a thing? That a village girl was transferred to the academy, and now she's hanging out with the younger Duke. Because of this, a lot of girls will be jealous of her. What is the guy even going to do about it? Besides, the daughter of the Southern Duke will feel competition towards the girl from the North. Willow objected that there was no need to worry. It was unlikely that something like that would happen. Celine would not just endure it anyway. Ryder said that this was the problem. What if she did something to Arsem's daughter after hearing some offensive words? This situation began to worry them a lot, so they decided to go to her class right after the lesson. There they saw a dirty girl who was surprised that they had come to her. A few hours ago, our heroine thought that she felt less rejection than expected, but no one approaches her. She knew it would be like that. Perhaps this is the very aristocratic ability to conduct oneself in society. Suddenly, a bird flew into the auditorium, and someone started shouting that the manager needed to be called. The white dove was beating against the window and could not get out. While one of her classmates was panicking about what to do now, our heroine headed towards the bird. Celine took her in her arms, closed her eyes because they calm down if you do that, and said that everything was fine. The girls were amazed that she was so fearless and not afraid because it was really cool. After class, she told the Duchess everything, who replied that she would very much like to see this cool act in person. When asked if there was anything else interesting, Mars replied that Demian, who saw them having fun in class, said that he would take her bag and let her have fun and left. She also heard that many people at the academy are interested in fencing. She wants to train with them in her free time, plus she also chose history lessons. The Duchess noted that she would now be so busy and would spend less time with her. The girl replied that everything was fine. Meetings with her were the most important thing for her. The woman squeezed her cheeks and exclaimed how she could be so cute. Celine added that the daughter of the Duke of Arsem told her that she was dressed too modestly. The woman noted that it was true. Girls her age really don't dress in such modest clothes. When the mother added that since the conversation was about it, she had a maid who could do her hair and makeup, the son interrupted her and said that he thought Mars was fine without it. The Duchess said that he was scaring her. How long had he been standing there? The guy replied that it had been a long time. And in general, isn't inner beauty more important for a knight? Maybe Celine thinks so too. He thought to himself that even now without dressing up, she looks pretty, but if she starts dressing up, it could be a problem. Suddenly all sorts of rabble would start to gather around her. Mother objected that it is necessary to know how to choose clothes and dress according to the occasion. Appearance helps to highlight inner beauty, so she is going to start looking for a dress for the debutante ball. She is turning 16 this year, so she must participate. Had she heard that Countess Braun would be hosting it this year, her son objected that as far as he knew, applications for the debutante ball were already closed this year. The woman replied that in fact her mother is the Duchess of Willow and nothing is impossible for her. The young man didn't understand what was going on, why she suddenly started talking about a debut, what she was planning. As soon as Celine came out, so many aristocrats would look at her, and this was very annoying. Our heroine replied that she thought that there would be no benefit from her going out into the world. The guy noted to himself that this was great, let him continue. The woman replied that she shouldn't think that way because she needed to know those with whom Demian was seeing, and if that happened, then he would be her date at the debut. Of course the guy can refuse, and then she will ask for the Count's son Ryder. The young man immediately interrupted her and exclaimed that it was not necessary because he agreed. The Duchess noted to herself that this was a special provocation. He was reacting so interestingly. Sometime later, when Claire learned that our heroine would be participating in the debutante ball this year, she said that she would also be taking part. How well it turned out. Then she asked where she would order the dress. Celine replied that she wanted to ask them to send the one she had already worn. Arsem muttered that she really didn't want to wear a simple dress for a debut that would only happen once in her life. She also said that her cavalier would be the younger Duke of Willow. The Duchess didn't say anything. Our heroine said that she talked about something, but she doesn't know. Claire replied that she certainly had a keen eye. The woman would probably choose Madame Lombardi's salon. Her classmates picked up on the fact that her dress was not tight, so she would like it too. They said that they did not restrict movement. When Celine said that why would she buy a new expensive dress if she already had a nearly new one that she had only worn a few times, the expressions on their faces changed dramatically. The girls exclaimed in one voice, "I mean, why? Doesn't she know that all aristocrats must strive for beauty every day? Does she even imagine what a laughingstock a girl would become if she didn't make her debut in a new custom-made dress?" Those who failed to adequately prepare the debutante are also subject to criticism, the gentlemen and the attendants. Our heroine realized that if she did not prepare properly, Willow's name would be tarnished, and she could not allow this. She would do everything to make the Duchess and Demian the best gentleman and escort. But, on the other hand, the young man reacted strangely to the words about the gentleman. She feels that something is bothering him. After that day, the girl began to prepare for her debut in society. She was measured for a new dress, and she also bought hair accessories to match it. The Duchess said that dancing and fencing have a lot in common. They say that a great swordsman will definitely be a good dancer. She can't wait to see how Mars dances. Therefore, our heroine realized that it was necessary to train in order to become a good dancer. You have to keep walking until the song ends, and also adjust to your partner. As the Duchess said, it really is like fencing. Everything would be fine if the girl didn't constantly step on her partner's foot. Mars immediately began to ask for forgiveness, and the woman said that everything was fine. Everything would work out. She just needed to overcome this obstacle. But this did not leave our heroine alone. Today she again beat up the dance teacher's legs. But there is absolutely no time for whining. You just need to train hard. Nothing is impossible if you put in the effort. The young man noted that something was happening in the room opposite. Could it be that Mars was still awake? She seems to be dancing, as can be seen from the sound of her steps. Celine always said that she doesn't want to show how she dances until she achieves perfection, but she will forgive him if he peeks a little. The girl was indignant. Why was she always wrong at the same point? All hope was on Mr. Pillow. The young man was so amused that he began to laugh stifledly, almost to tears. Our heroine heard this, so she immediately ran to the door and swung it open. Then she said that she was very disappointed that he was peeping into someone else's room. The young man objected that it wasn't on purpose, it's just that the door was open. Mars asked him if he didn't think a gentleman in such a situation should just close the door and walk past. The guy replied that she was right. When asked what he was doing in the corridor at night, the young man replied that he had run out of water and was very thirsty. Our heroine told him to go into her bedroom then, because there was still water there. While pouring the liquid, our heroine asked if it would be enough. The Duke's successor replied that it was quite enough. When Debutant heard that she had been practicing dancing because there was a part where she kept stepping on the teacher's feet, the guy asked if she wanted to try it with him. The young man thinks that he will be better than Mr. Pillow anyway. Celine asked if he was offering, which meant he was an excellent dancer. The young man replied that he had never stepped on anyone's toes. When the Duke's successor took her hands and pulled her towards him, the girl noted to herself that he looked like a precious stone, and now she seemed to understand why so many of his friends from the academy liked him so much. Then I decided that I didn't need to think about it at all, because I needed to concentrate on something else. When the dance got to the point where Mars was constantly stepping on her feet, Debutant pushed her back a little. Our heroine was very happy about this small victory and exclaimed that it was simply amazing, because she didn't know that he danced so well. The young man replied that it wasn't exactly good, it was just a common thing. Wasn't she mistaken in this place? Because the steps here were different from those used in fencing. He simply switched to those more familiar to her. The girl noted that the Duchess was probably right. She said that someone who dances well can become an excellent swordsman. Let him continue in the same spirit, then he will definitely become stronger. The guy thanked her for such words. The next day, the young man said that she was doing well, so what was the matter? Mars answered hesitantly that the teacher had suggested that he take her dancing lessons instead of her. When asked if Debutant would be able to work with her from tomorrow, the guy replied that of course. Was she really worried that he would refuse? When the young man added that they would see each other a little later, the girl noted to herself that she had thought so, but she couldn't say it because she was worried that she would feel the same tickling feeling that she had had yesterday. After some time in the studio, our heroine noted that this dress was very comfortable. The woman explained that this was the same Lombardy dress. Celine said that this dress was much lighter than the ones she had in the north. The seller explained that the frame of the petticoat was made of thin wire, which makes it strong and also light. I thought to myself that it was difficult. Since the Duchess had strict requirements, it was necessary to take the best fabrics, but to keep the decorations to a minimum, this child is uncomfortable wearing such things. So let it be beautiful, stylish, and comfortable. Then she added that since she had clear skin, she thought that she didn't need to decorate the dress with frills and ribbons, but she couldn't even imagine that it would suit her so well. Celine replied that she would wear dresses more often if they were all this comfortable. The Duchess looked at all this and came to the conclusion that she really needed to hire an artist tomorrow. Such beauty simply must be shown to her parents. Unfortunately, they will not be able to attend, but they would be very happy to know how charming their daughter looks. If they start working on the portrait tomorrow, they will have time to send it before the ball. Our heroine asked if she could take this dress with her to the north during this vacation. The woman replied that of course it now belongs to her. She wants to wear it in her native land or something. Celine replied that there is one person she definitely wants to show this outfit to. The Duchess was taken aback. Who was she going to show it to? Judging by her expression, it was definitely not her parents. Could it really be some guy? What should she do now? Although the son does not talk about it, it is clear to everyone that he has feelings for the girl. Moreover, in fact, she would accept them with open arms if it turned out that they would eventually fall in love with each other. But the problem is in Mars. Debutant is already 19 years old, the age when it is time to get married, and he is also the heir of the Duke. Apparently he himself understands everything. If he confesses too hastily, then their current relationship will be impossible to maintain. But the woman will not blindly take his side and support him, even though she often laughs at his reactions. The Duchess really wants Celine to be happy. As a knight, she is filled with pride and a sense of duty to her role. So much so that she swore that she would not enter into such a relationship with Debutant, no matter how young she was then. Considering Mars's character, she most likely said this seriously. Suddenly, the seller herself asked if the person she wanted to show this dress to was by any chance her lover from the north. Our heroine immediately exclaimed that no, she is not in a relationship with anyone. This is a childhood friend. She is just going to open a studio in Marion, and she loves clothes. She is always interested in the latest fashion trends, so she thinks Bella will be very happy if she sees this dress in person. The woman smiled and said that she had no idea that she valued her friends so much. The girl replied that, of course, so it was definitely not a lover. Among her childhood friends there are guys, but she definitely doesn't have any feelings for them. The saleswoman went off somewhere, asking along the way if she could give one book to her friend as an apology. This is the edition that she read in her youth. She also promised herself that she would open a studio at about her age, so there is a similar person in the north. Mars clarified whether she really wants to give such a valuable book. The woman replied that she wanted to become the owner of the best studio in the capital, but she remembers being so confused because she didn't know how to learn everything, so she hopes that this publication will be useful to her friend. On the way home, the Duchess noted to herself that it meant she didn't want to show off this outfit to a guy. After which she said that now she doesn't think about it, but when she grows up a little more, she will fall in love. Like all people, let him just promise that he will tell her, and she will help as much as she can. When they return to the mansion, the woman will send Bella a book with a letter. As soon as the hired artist completed the portrait, Celine received a reply letter. Bella thanked her for sending the book and said that it contained a very interesting history of fashion. And besides, the notes left by Madame Lombardi proved very useful. Now she had a more specific goal. There are differences between the capital and the north, from the climate to the lifestyle, so even if you follow the trends of the capital, these clothes still don't suit them. So she decided to create her own northern style. In this way, she would force people all over the country to follow this fashion. She sent a belt along with the letter. If this accessory matches her dress, then let her use it, even though the outfit is already ready. Therefore, I immediately asked if it was possible to replace it. The woman said that she would sew on the one that was needed without any problems. After reading the letter from her friend, Mars also decided to do everything possible to fulfill her task, and in the end, everyone worked long and hard to make this one-of-a-kind chance in her life the best moment. After a short period of time, the dress was completely ready, and the long-awaited ball was rapidly approaching. Many people came into her room from early morning, and she could not even have a normal breakfast. The maids asked what kind of hairstyle she would like. The girl answered that perhaps loose long hair, hers is very curly, so she had never styled it before. The maids immediately grabbed their combs and told her to sit still for a while and not move. Debutant, who was watching all this, thought to himself that Celine could look cute without all this effort. It was a shame that she was being tortured like this since the morning. Suddenly, our heroine ran up to him and asked how long he had been waiting for her here. Then she asked why he was looking at her so strangely. Was there something wrong with her? But the guy replied that it suited her very well. Mars replied that she just had her hair straightened, but everyone was immediately so happy. The Duchess admired how beautiful she was. She looked just like a real aristocrat. Already in the carriage, the woman said that she was very excited now because she had become her escort at the debut, which happens only once in a lifetime. This is what the weight of obligations does to her. She hasn't felt this for a long time. Let her listen carefully. A large number of people participate in the debutante ball. Does she remember the list of guests that she showed her? Celine replied that yes, she had learned all the names that were written in it. When the Duchess added that they had come to this ball most likely to find future spouses for their children, our heroine exclaimed, "I mean." The woman explained that in the capital, nobles get engaged at a relatively early age. If she meets someone worthy at the celebration, she should simply tell her. It is not necessarily the one she wants to marry, he can tell her. Even if he just feels sympathy, then she will accompany her and find out whether he is a good person or not. The young man objected that, in fact, even he was not engaged yet, and she did not need to worry about the marriage of Celine, who was younger than him. Mother replied that Debutant was right, and besides, she had never thought about it. Didn't he know that among his peers there were almost no people left who had not yet gotten engaged, and the sun was already late? Instead of speaking for others, let him look for someone he likes. After some time, the boys arrived at their destination and walked arm in arm. Claire immediately appeared and exclaimed that her hair looked absolutely beautiful. She couldn't even imagine it. What a surprise. And in general, this outfit suits her very well. Doesn't she want to dress like this more often? Our heroine thanked her and said that she looked good too. Then the girl switched to her companion, and they began to get to know each other. The guy added that he heard that she was a close friend of Mars. Arkham thought to herself, why is this vile snake hanging around Celine and not leaving her side for a single step? He hides his essence well, but you can't fool her. The young man is so sweet. He speaks with a smile on his face, but in reality it's all a lie. Debutant thought to himself that she was beating around Celine every day, either shopping together or doing homework together. Why was she bothering her? Because of this, he couldn't spend more time alone with Mars. When her friend said that she had come today with her brother, our heroine noted that she knew his name and had heard that he was a promising student at the academy. Claire replied that yes, it is because unlike her eldest brother, who will become a duke, or her middle brother, who works as an official, the third brother, Evan, has more free time. When she added that she would like to introduce him to her, the guy intervened in the conversation and said that Celine could not go that way. She should know the rule that debutantes cannot greet other guests without an escort. My friend was outraged. What impudence, this is not just a guest, she wants to introduce Mars to her family. The young man retorted that, although they were her relatives, he was Celine's cavalier, and wanted to prevent situations in which her reputation could be tarnished. After which the young man grabbed her hand and began to literally drag her in the other direction. When they had walked some distance, our heroine asked him to let go of her hand. Debutant apologized and asked if she was hurt. The girl thought to herself that it was the first time she saw him speak to someone so rudely, so she asked why the Duke's successor had just behaved like that. The young man thought to himself because he could not allow her to meet someone she might like, but he replied that a debutante ball happens once in a lifetime. The reputation created here will last a long time. Does she remember what her mother told her? There are many people at the ball who came to find matches for their children. Did she think about what people would think if she met one of the men without her boyfriend's accompaniment? Our heroine answered that number. Willow added that he just didn't want people to be mistaken about it. Even if it was unwise, he couldn't help but intervene. I thought to myself that, in fact, introducing a friend to a family member is not such a big deal. The girl replied that she had not even thought about the engagement, so how should she behave at the celebration so that no one would misunderstand her, and no misunderstandings would arise? The young man replied that it was necessary to stay close to him and not go anywhere. Debutant is her boyfriend, so this will not cause any misunderstandings. Our heroine asked what to do then with what the Duchess had said. The guy said that he thought she was setting the engagement for the following month, even if she mentioned someone in passing. Russell approached them. He immediately asked what she did to straighten her hair like that. The girl noted that he had also come, so he would go get some drinks for now. The guy said that he would go with her, but our heroine objected that she would quickly go and come back. When she had gone, Ryder said that people were whispering that the young Duke of Willow and Miss Mars were getting on very well, and that he would not let any of the young men near her. The young man follows her everywhere, like a little tail. Even the Duchess was indignant, wasn't it too much? Plus, she drives away all men who try to talk to her with her smile. The young man noted that this was great. They would all stop approaching if they understood what was going on. Russell asked if she couldn't at least dance with others. Usually partners change when the song ends. When Demian replied that everything was fine, Mars would not dance with anyone but him. His friend asked him what he was even planning, whether he knew that this could start even stranger rumors. Suddenly, our heroine appeared with drinks and asked what they were talking about. Ryder immediately asked if she was going to spend the entire point only with Demian. The girl replied that, of course, it was enough for her that he was next to her. Then they went dancing, and the guy said that now, when the song ends, everyone will change partners and so on every time a new one starts. After which he whispered in her ear that she should still dance only with the young man. When Celine agreed, the Duke's successor asked if she doubted his words. Mars did not understand what he was talking about. The guy immediately began to explain that she was simply much better than him. He thought that he was not so reliable yet, so he was surprised that the girl followed his advice without hesitation. Our heroine was indignant. What nonsense, because he was so kind and always made sure that she didn't get into trouble, so how could she doubt the words of such a person? Although she is better than him in fencing, he understands social life much better than she does. Our heroine should be grateful that he helps her so that she does not make mistakes. Demian thought to himself that Celine, like Marion, was very popular in the capital. Not only her red hair naturally attracted attention, but also her honest character, as well as her persistence in achieving her goals. Such a pure and sincere girl could not help but please the high-ranking aristocrats, and perhaps that is why at some point he began to feel thirst faster than pride for her. In the future, even more people will treat her favorably, and then what will he do if she chooses not him, but someone else? Willow is actually a broken person inside, and he can't just watch and do nothing. The guy is going to win her over with his strength if he can't do it with his feelings, but he needs to hide these dark thoughts so as not to get caught. The young man hopes that she will never find out about them because he wants to remain a good person for her, and then one day she will also accept his love. She just needs to behave as usual because he himself will make sure that everything works out. The next day, when Claire burst into the classroom, the girl noted that she was early today, since she usually arrives a little later. A friend approached her and asked if it was true that she had only danced with the young Duke of Willow yesterday. Celine replied that yes. What's the big deal? Arsène was indignant that the young man was a cunning snake. Debutantes usually find a groom in 3 seasons, so at balls, when the song changes, everyone dances with other partners, because that way they can meet their match. But our heroine danced absolutely all the songs only with the Duke's successor. Does she understand what all this means? This means that she will not be surprised at all if rumors start to spread that she and he are engaged. Mars exclaimed, meaning what nonsense is this? It is absolutely not true. The Duke's family would not take their son's marriage so lightly. The friend replied that this is precisely why it angers her even more, because the young Duke irritates her. Along with his irresponsible behavior, he had no right to spoil her first social debut. The guy was always hanging around her. Our heroine told her to calm down and added that the young man was just helping her. She hadn't even thought about engagement yet, so she asked him to help her. The girls asked in surprise why she had made her social debut. Celine explained, in order to meet those whom she would often meet when she became a Knight of Demian. Mars didn't even think about getting married here, because a man from the capital won't move with her to the north, since that's where her home is and she wants to return there. So there's no need to speak ill of Willow. Thanks to him, Celine was able to make its debut without any misunderstandings. Claire reflected that, judging by the young man's tone then, she did not think that he wanted to help her. When our heroine went out into the street, she was met by a young man who asked if her lessons were finished. The girl silently walked past him, and the young man did not understand what was happening and where she was going in such a hurry. On the way, Demian thought to himself that she had a very gloomy expression on her face. Could something have happened at the academy? Suddenly, Celine said that her friends told her that if you dance at a ball with the same person all the time, it means that you are engaged to him. But he didn't tell her about it. If she had known that people would think so, she would have acted differently. The young man thought to himself that girls usually really dance with different guys, so he deliberately didn't tell her. Then he replied that she was probably very surprised because he had to explain this to her. But are they in such a relationship with her that they could be engaged? Mars replied that, of course, no, after which he asked if she thought he had all the qualities to be the ideal future Duke of Willow. Our heroine replied that of course he did. He is grateful to her for saying so, but he still has a long way to go to become a worthy successor, so he is not even thinking about engagement right now. Neither the guy nor the girl are planning anything like this yet, and so he decided that this was a good option for both of them, but people who don't know about their situation got it all wrong. Then, if they go to the next events, should they dance with other people? Our heroine answered that no, everything is fine, let him be her dance partner the next time. Celine listened to him and thought that in high society, even who a person dances with becomes a reason for strange rumors. In the capital, it is difficult with people. She can at least talk to Debutant, but if rumors start to spread about her and some unknown young man, then she doesn't even know what to do. And if any lady appears who pleases him, let him simply say that she cannot stand in the way of the future Duchess. The Duke's successor replied that this would definitely not happen, so he should not worry about it. After some time, Willow thought that this time he managed to hide everything, but he doesn't know how long he can fool her. If he tells her right now that he did it because he likes her, then Mars will say that he acted childishly. He should be patient until the situation becomes favorable for him. At least until they both become adults. This year after winter break, she turns 17, and he graduates from the academy. He has no choice but to endure a few more years after graduation. Celine told him that he lacked confidence. What should he do if saying 100 times, "I can do it," is not enough? Sometime later, the first winter holidays came after entering the academy, and for the first time in a long time, she returned to her homeland. She was immediately met by friends, so the girl told them that there were gifts for them that people from the capital had brought. This is for Johann. He wanted to change the iron that is used in the local forges. It will be useful to try different types of metal. They said that they will send more if needed. And this is for Bella. Madame Lombardi gave this book. It seems she liked it very much. Now, a cookbook written by the Duke's chef for Mia, and a new encyclopedia of animals and plants, which was published this year. The boys were taken aback at first, but then they said that they had also prepared something for the young Duke as a gift for his graduation from the academy. These are sets of socks and gloves made of sheep wool. There are 2 of them, one for her and one for Debutant. He and his mother made some mulled wine, so when he returns home, let him tell the Baron's cook to be sure to take it with him. When asked why she had come, since she had said that she would be busy because of the Duke's successor, the girl replied that she had actually come for a short time, precisely because of him. Our heroine needs to buy him a gift, but she couldn't find anything suitable in the capital. She wants to give him something meaningful, not just high quality. So he's going to go to Chaldea. In theory, they should have what he needs. Bella asked if she had thought of what she wanted to buy. Mars said it should be something he would use every day. After a while, our heroine asked her father what kind of flower it was. Although it seems she knows what it is, it seems to be a camellia. Isn't it particularly valuable? The man explained that he thought it might be suitable as a gift, since it represented the north, and the merchant said that he had seen it on the mountain, so he went there, and it was indeed there. The daughter asked if he was okay, because she had heard that strange roar could still be heard in the mountains. The Baron replied that there was no need to worry, since he had not climbed very high up the mountain before he found it. When our heroine looked at the flower, she had some strange feelings. For some reason, she felt as if she were remorseful in front of it. After a while, our heroine said that it seemed to her that they had already gone around a dozen places, but nothing suitable was found. Who would have thought that choosing a gift would be so difficult? Bella exclaimed. Of course, she chooses so carefully. At one moment it seemed to her that it was too ordinary. At another it seemed that this pattern would not suit him. Even if it was a gift for the young Duke, it was time to compromise. Celine replied that she just wanted to give him something more meaningful. Her friend asked if she was dating him by chance. When Mars' jaw dropped to the floor, the girl immediately said, "Okay, just don't make such a weird face." Just anyone would think so if they saw a 17-year-old girl so carefully choosing a gift for a guy. Our heroine asked what about her, how things were going with Johan in general. Bella immediately said that she didn't understand what she was talking about, but our heroine asked her not to pretend. Everyone except the two of them already knew. They said that they would be a wonderful couple. The girl sighed heavily and replied that she didn't argue. Johan was just a great guy, but that's exactly why she wasn't going to date him, because he was a very dear friend to her. If they suddenly start a relationship and then they quarrel and break up, then she will lose both her friend and her lover in an instant. She is already sad that Celine left for the capital, and if Johan is not there, it will be too cruel to her. Mars stood up and asked her to wait a bit because she wanted to go back to the shop where she had seen something interesting. Bella said that she wanted to go too, but she objected that she was wearing heels. Her feet were probably already hurting, so let her rest. Her friend watched her go and thought that it was in vain that she was constantly worrying so much about trifles. On the way, the girl thought that she could not even imagine that Bella was so worried that she could lose both her friend and her lover, in which case she needed to buy a gift for her too. Our heroine saw beautiful cufflinks in the shop window and realized that they would suit him perfectly. When Celine entered, the young man asked how she got into this room. Mars explained that she wanted to buy the thing that was there, but the guy interrupted her and said that he was not asking about that, but about how it got there. Our heroine replied that she opened the door and entered. What kind of question is that? In any case, let him just sell her what is on the display case, please, because she really wants to buy it. The stranger replied that if she meant cufflinks, they were not for sale. Celine replied that she was ready to pay any amount. The young man asked, in the sense of any money, if she knew how much it might cost. Suddenly he came close to her and looked at her carefully. The girl asked what he was doing at all. The young man laughed and exclaimed that now everything was clear to him. Our heroine thought to herself that he was somehow strange. The stranger stated that she lived somewhere nearby. Celine replied that yes, but now she was studying at an academy in the capital. The guy said that, okay, the owner of these cufflinks hasn't shown up anyway, and since it's fate, so be it, he'll sell them to her, but let her take into account that they're very expensive, as much money as she has on her. When she handed him a bag of silver coins, the guy laughed loudly and exclaimed that she had said that she was ready to pay any money. Was this really all she could offer after such loud statements? Our heroine began to get irritated by this, and she said that if there wasn't enough, she could go and bring more. But the young man objected that it was not necessary. Since she had no more, then she would take as much as she had. Let her consider that he would pay the remaining amount himself. She won't come back here anyway, the girl asked what it meant, but the stranger ignored it and asked whether she should wrap them up. Mars started to freak out to herself that it was impossible to have a normal conversation with him. When the young man gave her the box, he immediately showed her to the door and told her to use it wisely. After she left, the young man noted that she smelled of camellias. This flower had already blossomed so much that it could be picked by human hands, but it never appeared. Even if Raven doesn't forgive her, perhaps it would be better for her not to know anything. Meanwhile, our heroine did not understand what had just happened, and when I turned around, I saw that the store looked completely different, and there were no windows. But now there is no time for this because her friend is waiting for her. She needs to return to her as soon as possible. When our heroine returned to the capital, the guy immediately asked how her meeting with her parents and friends went. The girl immediately handed him the box and said that it was a gift from all the children from Marion. These are sheepskin sleep socks and mittens. They gave one for her and one for him. Mia and her mother made mulled wine. She put it in the kitchen, so they will drink it together a little later. The young man didn't understand why he needed socks to sleep in, but Celine explained that in the north, when it's very cold in winter, everyone sleeps in them. Then Mars handed him another small box and said that it was a gift from her personally. She actually went north to find him a graduation gift. Once she saw it, she knew it was the one, but she doesn't know if he'll like it. Let him go to his room and open it there. Demian asked why he couldn't open it here. Our heroine began to push him in the back and say that he just needed to cross to the other side. When the young man saw the cufflinks, he wondered if Celine had really bought them. At first glance, you can see that it costs a fortune. How did she manage to do it? Okay, it doesn't matter anyway, because in any case, now they belong to him. Even if problems arise, he will solve them no matter how much it costs. On the day of graduation, the boy said an oath that, as a worthy graduate of the academy, he swears to always remember the knowledge he received and to strive for a life filled with meaning. The girl looked at him with pride and could not believe that the same fragile and insecure boy became the best graduate of the course. Perhaps he really achieved everything just by his persistence, so much so that tears appeared in his eyes. Until she comes of age, they probably won't be able to see each other as often as before. It's a pity, of course, but it's necessary for her to become an impeccable knight defender. Sometime later, at the festive table, the Duchess said that it was a pity, because she thought that today there would be something to look at. Could everything really be different now? There is a legend that if you give a graduation ring to someone you like, their love will be mutual. The son objected that in their time, no one follows such old-fashioned traditions. The woman asked if he really called what his father had done old-fashioned, and our heroine asked if she had received the ring from the Duke in exactly that way. The Duchess replied that, of course, but by that time they were already engaged. Suddenly the butler appeared and reported that the owner had arrived at the estate. Mars immediately jumped up and said that it was time to go back, but the woman told her not to worry and not to rush because they probably had something to talk about with each other. Demian added that they say that they serve excellent desserts here, so let him eat them and then go. Our heroine noticed that he was wearing the very cufflinks that she had given him and asked if he liked them. The young man replied that, of course, so now he will only wear them. Celine objected that this is not possible. Bella said that each outfit has its own jewelry. Wouldn't it look weird if he wore the same cufflinks? When Willow asked what kind of jewelry she liked, the girl replied that she didn't have any particular preferences. But if I had to choose, then her decoration would of course be a sword. Nothing suits a knight defender in ceremonial uniform as this weapon, the young man thought to himself. Perhaps he should order her a sword that is decorated with precious stones. But suddenly she added that if we were talking specifically about jewelry, then most likely it would be a ring. When our heroine gets married, she will definitely wear a wedding ring. Even when my father fought with swords, he always wore a wedding ring on his left hand. Seeing this, the girl decided that she would also always wear it if she had a loved one. Suddenly the young man said that he had thought about her words, then held out the box and asked if she could take care of the ring. Our heroine's jaw dropped in surprise again. She didn't understand what was happening at all. Demian added that after their conversation, he wanted to give a prom ring to the one he marries, but as she knows, Willow doesn't take very good care of her things. The girl replied that, okay, she would keep it and return it to him when the time came. The guy asked what would happen if her husband suddenly found him and misunderstood him. Celine said that he would probably start a family soon. The young man replied that the fact was that he had not yet been proposed to, and if she married before him, people would say that the knight had surpassed his master. The girl first asked him not to talk nonsense, but then added that in that case, until he found himself a bride, she would reject all marriage proposals. Our heroine said that she is not even thinking about marriage yet, so everything is fine, but she hopes that the owner of this ring will be found soon. Let him not worry so much because his destiny may be very close. The Duke's successor replied that he thought so too, that she could always be much closer than they thought. Sometime later, at the Duke's estate, our heroine noticed that her father had some wounds on his face. The man explained that he had simply fallen off his horse. Demian, looking at the plant, asked what it was. The Baron explained that it was a rare flower called camellia. The man was lucky enough to find it during a hike in the mountains, so he really wanted to give it to him. The guy replied that he would definitely save it, put it in his room, and admire it every day. Mars asked if she could come sometimes to look at this flower. The young man replied that, of course, she could come whenever she wanted. Her father immediately made a remark that it was impossible to just enter the room of the young Duke, but his parents replied that everything was fine because they were just friends, so why couldn't they visit each other? The young man also added that this does not bother him at all because Celine has never bothered him. Then the Duchess said that it was time for them to go upstairs. Let them leave the adults alone, because they needed to talk. On the way, Demian said that even as an adult, for her he is still a child. The girl said that it had only just dawned on her that she would now be all alone at the academy, since the gentleman was about to inherit the title of Duke, so he would certainly have a lot to do. She also heard that Russell would be working in the House of Lords. The guy replied that it was true. Uraf Ryder is the current chairman of this organization. Then the guys wished each other good night, and our heroine added that she once again congratulated him on graduating from the academy. 2 weeks later, before classes began at the academy, Demian noted that the flower did not fade for quite a long time. By the way, will our heroine make it on time at all, and will she be late by any chance? Mars immediately realized that she needed to run, and wished her a good day before leaving. Near the educational institution, the girl thought that nothing had really changed, but there was no master here anymore. Maybe because of this, the academy seemed different to her, and she felt someone's gaze on her. Then she began to turn her head in different directions, but she didn't see anyone next to her, which meant it was from somewhere far away. Then she turned her attention to the tower and muttered that she thought someone was looking at them from there, but the lesson was starting soon, so she had to go. After classes, our heroine was still uneasy. Perhaps someone suspicious had gotten in there. It seems that the last floor is the 30th, so you will have to work hard. Suddenly a voice was heard asking who it was. Turning around abruptly, she saw a young man and asked what he was doing there. Then she noticed his clothes and asked if he had really done it. The young man muttered that he had been discovered. The Duke's successor will work here as an assistant for 3 whole years. Mars immediately asked what floor his room was on. The guy replied that it was at the very top, after which he repeated her words that a high tower is an excellent place for training. A few hours ago, a servant told him to follow him so that he could be shown to his room. By the time they reached the very top floor, the young man almost lost consciousness and handed him the key so that he could open the door. This key is quite exquisite. They say that it has been passed down from generation to generation since the founding of the academy, so he should try not to lose it. Demian asked if there was a spare one at all, but the young man replied that even if an exact copy were made, the door could only be opened with this one. Scientists assume that these are the remains of ancient magic. Looking around, the Duke's successor noted that for a room that had not been used for a long time, it was in fairly good condition. The assistant said that he heard that he had already discussed it with the rector, but was he sure that he wanted this one? Since it was so high up, Willow replied that everything was fine. He liked it and was more than satisfied. The young man immediately took his leave and said that he would go then, and if he needed anything, he should ask. Sitting down at the table, the young man noted that there was not a speck of dust around, and everything looked very expensive. I wonder who lived here before. Taking the book in his hands, the guy stated that it seemed that 2 people used this room, Crow and Camellia. After which it dawned on him that the flower that the Baron had brought had exactly the same name. In fact, the Duke's successor was worried about something else. This stone on the key seemed very familiar to him. But this can't be the same stone that he bought in Chaldea, because this key has been here since the very foundation of the academy. Perhaps this is just a coincidence. To begin with, it is necessary to put a clock here, so that he could meet Celine after classes. I wonder when they will end. After some time, Claire asked in surprise why and for what reason the young Duke became an assistant. Mars answered that she did not know for sure, but perhaps he decided to devote himself to science. The girl objected that if he was from the Willow family, then he had enough to do in the House of Lords. Arsem added that the Duchess was probably against it. Assistants are usually those who want to become teachers. Why should a person who is about to inherit a title spend 3 years on it? His friend doubts that he can handle this job, but our heroine objects that he will succeed because Demian is very responsible. She thought to herself that it meant that the gaze she felt on herself belonged to him. But it seemed to her that this look was somehow different, as if something was calling her. Several days had passed since then, but she still felt that gaze. Perhaps she was just too suspicious. Claire came to the conclusion that if she had this feeling that did not go away, then the Duke's successor seemed to be watching her all day instead of working. Our heroine smiled and replied that he really was working, because today he had gone to the House of Lords on business. Then it dawned on her that the gentleman would return only after the session in the chamber, which would end later in the evening, and now it was only lunchtime. After which she immediately told her friend that she needed to go somewhere, so she would go ahead. Climbing the stairs in the tower, Celine thought that 30 floors were no joke. It took a very long time to climb. Did he really do this every day? Seeing the door in front of her, she realized that she felt someone's presence inside. If it was not Demian, then who was it? She kept feeling that someone was calling her, so she asked Willow for forgiveness just in case and said that she would come in for a moment. But when our heroine began to pull the door handle, it turned out that it was locked. They said that there is only one key to this room and it is impossible to copy it. What to do? You can't break the door, so you need to come up with something else. Then the girl felt that she had something in her pocket, so she put her hand there. To her great surprise, it turned out to be a key with a pink stone in the middle. She could not understand how long she had it. When she decided to turn it in the keyhole, there was a characteristic click of the front door opening. The girl was very scared, but she overcame herself, opened the doors, and asked if there was anyone there. Suddenly, our heroine began to feel pressure. Everything around her seemed to be shaking. She did not understand what to do. When everything settled down and she opened her eyes, she saw that a flight of stairs had appeared in the closet, right in front of her. It was quite dark inside, so I thought that maybe I should go back and call someone for help. But then she decided that after all, no, because first she needed to figure out this situation on her own. If she left now, then that person might run away. Celine noted that the stairs are not that big, so in theory it wouldn't take long to climb. After some time, she saw a huge red egg in front of her and could not understand what it was. Meanwhile, Claire approached the Duke's successor and asked if he had seen Mars. The guy replied that he had just returned, so no, what happened? The friend immediately exclaimed that our heroine had disappeared somewhere. She said she had to go somewhere during lunch and left, but she hasn't been anywhere for several hours. When asked if they had checked all the places where she might have been, Arsène replied that they had gone everywhere. Celine mentioned that she felt someone's gaze on her. Perhaps she had been kidnapped. The girl said that this look was coming from the tower, but it was unclear who exactly it was. The young man immediately said that they would go there now. Demian was very angry. It couldn't be that the Capital Academy had such weak security. But now was not the time for that. The main thing was that nothing happened to Mars. When the young man approached the door, he noticed that it was not closed. Then the guy noticed a ladder that appeared out of nowhere because it wasn't there before. The Duke's successor immediately began to climb up it and at the same time think about what had happened and where she had gone. Suddenly, he saw our heroine in front of him, who was lying on the ground unconscious. The first thing the young man did was check whether she was breathing at all. Suddenly, she began to come to her senses, and the young man breathed a sigh of relief that she was all right. A few minutes ago, Mars was walking towards this egg and thinking that it sounds ridiculous, but it seems lonely. Perhaps it was this that was constantly looking at our heroine. After the girl touched him, everything around suddenly became very light, and some magical signs appeared. Demian clarified whether she lost consciousness after touching the egg. But first it would be better to leave here altogether. Would she be able to go now? The girl answered that yes, everything was fine. When Celine began to apologize for making her worry, she suddenly began to sway from side to side. She had a terrible headache, so the Duke's successor told her not to hurry and to rest a little. When he sat her down on the ground, our heroine said that everything suddenly stopped hurting. Then Mars stood up and headed towards the egg again. The guy shouted what she was doing. He doesn't know what it is. Let her not come near it. Our heroine turned to him and asked if they could take him with them, since she couldn't leave him here. When the girl touched this creature, she felt some kind of connection with it, and thought that maybe it was because of it that she had a headache. The young man replied that, okay, but he would carry it because she was fine now, but a few minutes ago she was unconscious. Let her concentrate on going down the stairs. Celine has not yet fully recovered, and if she trips, she can seriously damage herself and the egg. After some time, Jerome Fisher, who is the librarian of the academy, said that this is a connection. Let him look in this book because he found out 2 facts. First, the girl gets a headache when she is far from the egg. Secondly, it is believed that this is not a simple egg, but that of a magical creature. But he doesn't know what kind exactly. As is known, magical creatures are spoken of only in ancient legends. The guy asked if she would get better if he destroyed the egg. The man replied that he didn't know. When the Duke's successor began to glare at him, the librarian said that he could only say that he didn't know, so there was no need to get angry. The connection is a pure animal instinct. It is how a magical creature chooses a parent, since there have never been cases of a connection between a human and such a creature. He suggests not changing anything. Demian asked him what he was talking about. The man replied that they say that if you destroy the cub of some magical creatures, a severe curse will be placed on the person. If it is one of these types, then the lady may suffer even more. It is known that this happens, for example, with dragons. In general, it is still unclear how the egg ended up at the top of the tower, and also got connected with Mars. The young man didn't know what to do with all this information, so he told the librarian to just leave. What other connection? What magical creature? It all sounds like complete absurdity. But what the man said really sounds more plausible than all the previous versions. When he went there for the first time, he didn't see any stairs at all, which means it really attracted Celine. I wonder why she was chosen out of all people. Since then, our heroine began a new life with Al. When she found out who he really was, she did not know what awaited her in the future, but it turned out that everything remained almost the same. With one exception, the girl began to eat twice as much as usual. It turns out that the egg replenishes the lack of nutrients through it, as the keeper Jerome said. It turns out that Mars, as his bonded partner, feeds him, like a parent feeds his child. Mr. Demian and the Duchess did everything to hush up this story, but it seems that rumors about this strange incident have already spread throughout high society. As a result, our heroine was allowed to return to the academy only after the professors were convinced that he was absolutely safe and not aggressive. Her friends asked her what she was holding in her hands. Was it really what everyone was talking about? The girl replied that it wasn't dangerous, so let them come and look. Suddenly, the egg began to shake, and Celine noted that he seemed to be in a good mood today. This means he is happy and will like it if they pet him. Claire was the first to approach hesitantly and began to touch this strange creature. Gradually, her friends, who had initially treated her with caution, became accustomed to her presence and began to treat her differently. Seeing an interesting outfit on him, the girls asked where she got it from. Our heroine answered that Bella sent it from her hometown. They say that he cannot maintain his body temperature on his own, so he needs to be kept warm. When asked if it was hard for her to carry it around with her all the time, Mars replied that she was afraid of breaking it, but she saw it as training. Suddenly, Russell appeared, who exclaimed that this was the same creation and rumors about how Celine was doing in general. Our heroine asked what he was doing at the academy. The guy replied that he had come on business and that today he had brought materials for a meeting in the House of Lords. It is strange for Demian that he suddenly decided to become an assistant, and that he was given a room at the very top of the tower so that he could make the ascent every month. What an interesting life this young duke has. Then he turned his attention to the ladies and said that he had heard a lot about them, so it was nice to meet them. They say that they speak well of Mars. After which, the young man realized that it was time for him to return to the House of Lords and wish them good luck. The friends asked in confusion who it was. Mars answered that it was Mr. Russell, from the family of Count Ryder. One of them immediately realized that this was Demian's friend. Claire was surprised that he had friends. How was that even possible? How could such a rude person be friends with such a gentleman? When asked how she met him, Celine replied that before, during the holidays, he always came to Marion with the Duke's successor. When she first saw them, it seemed as if Mr. Russell was making fun of Mr. Willowdot. Gradually, the guys became very close, so at the moment, they have a wonderful relationship. Noticing that Claire had blushed, her friends asked her what had happened, but she replied that nothing had happened. A classmate immediately asked her if she had accidentally fallen in love with the young baron. Arsem exclaimed that, no, of course not. How could she even think such a thing? It was not true. The friends exclaimed how untrue it was. After all, it was written on her face. Celine could introduce them next time. While the girls were chatting, an unknown man in a hood was watching them. It turned out to be the same guy from whom our heroine bought cufflinks. Upon seeing the egg, he thought to himself that she really had gone into that room. Of course, it's hard to believe, but it seems that fate really does exist in this world. Even the father forgot about his child. And what should he do? Since circumstances have already developed in this way, there is nothing left to do but observe. A year has passed since then. The young man asked Celine if everything was ready. Looking at the large backpack, he asked if these were all her things. The girl answered that yes. The young man immediately said that he would carry it. She wanted to object that she could do it herself, but he only asked if anything else was needed. On the way, our heroine thought about when he managed to become so strong, how he could even carry such a heavy bag. After that incident, she often began to see something unusual in him. For example, how he was angry at scientists and doctors who could not give her a diagnosis. The guy who couldn't open a jar of jam can now lift a heavy backpack with one hand with ease. Sometimes Mars even forgets that this is the same weak Mr. Demian Point. In the past, she dreamed that he would become so strong, but now for some reason she feels uneasy. After some time, the girls finally arrived at the place where they would spend the night and noted that they were very tired. From today on, they went on an overnight camping trip with their friends from the academy. They would just pitch tents, cook food, and chat with everyone like they were on a regular picnic. But this trip was special for her. After she had the egg, she could not go on a long trip and therefore did not go anywhere. Because of this, the girl couldn't even return to Marion for the holidays. But what can you do? What if it hatches and turns into a dangerous beast? After a while, she put up a tent and her friends admired it. Celine explained that she had put up a lot of them at the night school. After which, she added that now it was necessary to find firewood in the forest, and we could all go together. The Duke's successor, who heard this, looked around and realized that they were still dealing with the setting up of tents. Perhaps he should go with them then. While collecting brushwood, our heroine suggested finding more, and if there was anything, sharing it with others since they were already doing it. Her friends supported her idea, so they went further into the forest. Almost immediately they came across a small stream and were glad that now they would have drinking water. The food duty officers would be happy. Opposite they saw mushrooms, but if they crossed the river their shoes would get wet, but our heroine immediately began to take off her shoes, after which she told them to wait a little, and she herself went to the other side. The mushrooms turned out to be edible, so now they will have a lot of tasty food for dinner. Mars didn't know where to put them, but it would take too long to go back for the containers, so she decided to use the owl basket for this. Having finished collecting, Celine decided that this would be enough, then turned in the direction where she had placed the egg, but it was not there. Looked towards the river. She saw that the egg had rolled very close to the cliff. Our heroine immediately began to have a terrible headache and lost consciousness. After some time, she began to come to her senses and saw in front of her a blurry silhouette of Demian. The girl immediately asked what Willow was doing there, but the guy ignored her and asked what he told her before going on a hike. Our heroine replied that she should not do anything dangerous. The guy exclaimed that that was it, but she didn't listen and did this reckless thing with the mushrooms. Does she understand that she almost died? Celine asked what was wrong with the egg. The young man replied that everything was fine. He was saved. But if she ever again so frivolously endangers her life, he will deprive her of her knighthood. How can she protect others if she is not able to take care of herself? Let her sit on his back. The girl replied that she would go herself, but the guy objected that there was no need to resist because he was very angry right now. Our heroine was afraid to argue with him, so she did what he told her. When they got to the other side, the friends immediately told Mars that she needed to lie down and rest for a bit. The young man understood that it was not her fault. In fact, it was his own fault that he had chosen this room as his assistance. But why did it happen to her? Because this room belonged to him, which means that if the connection had happened, it would have been with him and not with her, then there would not have been such a worry. After some time, our heroine went outside, and the girls immediately began asking how she felt. Mars replied that everything was fine. Since they were here, she had to do something too. Noticing that Celine had somehow drooped, Claire told her not to think badly. When asked what she meant, her friend added that she was also worried about the young Duke. When the boy saw that the egg was rolling into the water, he just jumped out of nowhere, and without even thinking about the fact that he might get his clothes dirty, he rushed to save it. Arkem saw for the first time that he could be so seriously angry, although he usually only pretended to smile. Therefore, it immediately became clear that the young man was very worried about her and cared about her. The brunette noted that Mars was very lucky. Then it seemed to her that there was something between them. The brunette said that she would also like to be protected by such a wonderful young man as Mr. Demian Point. Our heroine said that he was really kind and would have done the same with any other person. When after dinner the friends went to wash the dishes and Celine decided to clean up a bit, Willow appeared and asked if she needed help. The girl jerked forward sharply, saying that it was not necessary, because she could handle it on her own. Demian immediately asked if she was angry with him, but our heroine exclaimed that she was not. The young man followed her and asked for forgiveness for speaking so harshly towards her. He was simply too worried. Celine replied that nothing terrible really happened, so she shouldn't worry. She's not angry, because she did the wrong thing today. The guy stated that then they were both to blame. Henceforth, the girl would avoid dangerous situations, and he would try to control his anger. When the girl agreed, the guy added that if the guys saw that she was not resting but cleaning, they would scold her, so let her go to the tent. The Duke's successor noted to himself that she reacted somehow strangely, but perhaps he just imagined it. Before going to bed, Claire asked in surprise if she had never had an ideal at all. That couldn't be. She could list at least 5 ideal men. Our heroine replied that she had never thought about it, so she didn't even know what to answer. One of her friends said that she would try to guess. Surely it must be someone who is a master of the sword, and better than her. Another noted that Mars respects her father very much, so she felt that her ideal was a fellow swordmaster. Celine replied that this is not so. He does not necessarily have to wield a sword better than her. To the question, having heard the question, who then she likes, our heroine thought at first. After which she replied that she likes it when a person tries in everything. It's not the same as being talented. She can help him in what he's not strong in. Claire muttered that he must be diligent. But what kind of character must he have? Having heard that he should be kind, but not too kind because she likes it when a person can directly tell if she is doing something wrong, and she likes such a strong character, her friends stated that they immediately introduced Debutant. Our heroine exclaimed, "I mean, where did they get that from, because he will be her master?" The girls responded that, based on her words, he fits all the criteria. Did she notice that he valued her very much? Celine replied that this was not so. It was simply because the gentleman was kind. The brunette asked, then why doesn't she meet some other guy? Her brother Louis has been in love with her for a long time. She says this not only because he is her brother, but the guy is a really good person and meets all her requirements. Claire supported her and said that she would have to get married someday, but did she even know another man besides the young Duke? If our heroine is not in love with him, then maybe she really should meet other men before it's too late. There is nothing wrong with that. You just need to drink some tea, and that's it. Let him not worry. If he doesn't want to, then they won't insist. But let him just think about it. The next day, the girl was indignant that no matter how much she shook her head, the sand would not shake out. As soon as she got home, she would immediately take a bubble bath, and in general, her nails were all scratched from the sand. The other one said that she was very tired, so she would sleep all day as soon as she returned. Suddenly, our heroine stopped her and said that she had decided to do what she had suggested yesterday. The girl was delighted and said that she would tell her brother about this a little later. Celine noted to herself that she had been thinking about this all night and decided that she should try something new to distract herself, because lately she had been thinking too much about the gentleman. Perhaps because she was with him all the time, she involuntarily began to behave strangely, plus to feel something strange. A week later, our heroine said that it was not worth trying so hard to dress her up. The maids objected that for a date one must dress 10 times more beautifully than usual. Mars immediately asked, please, not to tell Debutant about today. The maids exclaimed that of course there was no need to worry. Let him go and have a good time. They noted to themselves that it was a great pity that such a lovely lady had never experienced true love, but now she was wearing such a beautiful dress that she would normally have refused. When she approached the meeting place, the man asked if she had an order. The girl replied that yes, it was probably registered to Mr. Louis Gardner. Upon hearing this name, the employee reported that the young man had already left. Celine exclaimed that this could not be. But the man objected that he saw him leaving with the company and paying the bill. Perhaps she had mixed something up. Our heroine did not understand who he could leave with because she was one of his company. But this is even for the best, because she did not want to come to him, and in general she came not because of interest, but because of Debutant. Therefore, it is generally not nice to act like this towards him. Perhaps buy something tasty on the way home. She felt a little uncomfortable rummaging through her purse, so she wanted to put the egg on the ground. Suddenly, the voice of a young man was heard, who said that he could hold it and that she should take it out calmly. A week ago, Russell asked until what point he would do this. The guy answered that until Celine finishes the academy. When asked if he recognized him, Ryder replied that, yes, his name was Louis. Gardner, it seems, he had been courting Mars since the debutante ball. They said he was dating someone, but he couldn't think it was her. The young man also loves opera very much. They say he is simply in unbridled love for Rose Expo, the most popular opera singer. They say that she comes from a family of barons from the provinces and is so beautiful that many young lords have lost their heads over her. They also say that she is too proud and never met her fans in an informal setting. The girl introduces herself as a baroness, but in reality she is a simpleton, which is why she does not want to meet with fans in an informal setting because she is afraid that her secret will be revealed, and these rumors only add to her popularity. When he added that the singer would not give in until she received a decent amount for it, the young man started getting ready to go somewhere. When asked where he was going, Demian said that he needed to meet someone. 1252 Russell asked to clarify with whom exactly. The young man replied that with an opera singer, he wanted to arrange a meeting for her with one of her admirers. As a result, the young people met, pretending that it was just a coincidence. They drank tea with roses and chatted merrily. Only 10 minutes passed before the bouquet of flowers prepared for our heroine ended up in her hands. And it took him another 2 minutes to invite the girl to go for a walk. Only 12 minutes, and he has already decided to run away. What kind of date is this? In the present tense, Mars didn't understand where he came from. He smiles again. His jaw probably hurts already. The guy said that he was just passing by and saw her. What is the girl doing in the shopping area? She said she was unwell today and would stay home, but now she is walking around here alone, without friends, and in such a beautiful dress. Mars replied that she had actually come to meet Mr. Gardner, whom her friend had introduced to her, but he was not there. Perhaps there was some misunderstanding and she simply mixed up the date. But what is the young man doing here? The young man replied that he simply needed to meet someone, and in general he was in shock. His knight was hiding something from him, so he would have to have some secrets too. Embarrassed, our heroine replied that she was simply interested in how a date with a guy actually happens. So I decided that it would be nice to try it at least once, but I thought to myself that I couldn't say that I was worried about Mr. Demian Point. Suddenly, the Duke's successor said that he was actually also a man, or she didn't know. Celine objected that, of course, she knew the young man stated that they would meet then. In good weather, a man and a woman in beautiful clothes meet, and this is called a date. The weather is nice now, they are both dressed nicely, and they are now outdoors. Isn't this a date? If something bothers her and she doesn't like the way he's dressed, then they can go to a clothing store right now, although he doesn't have any money with him. Mars was indignant, who even told him that, but she agreed to go. When they entered the boutique, the salesman said that the Duke had ordered a suit for the following month, but the guy replied that the thing was that his partner, with whom he was going on a date, did not like his clothes. The man noted that in his opinion he looks great. Perhaps she thinks that something is missing. Our heroine felt awkward at first, but then she said that she didn't like absolutely everything. But today they will only choose a tie, so let them show what they have. When the man walked away from them, Celine whispered that everything here was very expensive. Would these coins be enough for at least one tie? The young man found all this very amusing, and he answered in a strangled voice that that should be enough. Meanwhile, the salesman brought the ties and said that he was very glad that he could show them their new collection. Demian asked how much they cost. The man explained that the top row was more expensive, the bottom row was cheaper. Willow told her to take the one she liked, but the merchant was surprised to himself that the young Duke was asking the price. Celine faced a difficult choice of what to offer to a man who only wears clothes chosen for him by the Duchess or her maids. But she still liked one and asked how much it cost. The seller asked whether the young man's payment method had changed, but the guy replied that no, he should send the invoice to the duchy as usual. When our heroine indignantly exclaimed his name, the young man asked for forgiveness and said that he was just joking. She was just acting awkwardly today, and he thought that the girl was very nervous. Mars thought to herself that the gentleman said that they were going on a date, but the guys are not in that kind of relationship. They are more like comrades. When they arrived at the cafe, the guy asked her if everything was okay and if she remembered this place. Our heroine replied that, of course, this was the very place where they had sat before. The guy noted that he spent a long time calming her down, and she even wiped away her tears with a towel that he gave her. Celine said that they say that it is very difficult to take this place now because it is considered the best establishment. The Duke's successor replied that he had booked it in advance for the whole day just for them. He just felt that they would come here today. The girl objected that they hadn't agreed to go somewhere together today, but the guy objected that something had simply prompted him to do so. When Mars said that if he spends money like that, he will be left penniless when he needs it, the guy said not to worry, because for aristocrats, such spending is normal, and it's not a pity to spend it on the girl he's dating. And there is no need to bother at all. A date is just a shared meal and a walk through beautiful places. When asked if they didn't do this all the time, the guy replied that they did. So let her eat ice cream as soon as possible, and they will go where he wants. She will surely like it there. It will be a viewing of the javelin tournament. After she finishes eating, he has reserved the best seats. The girl objected that minors were not allowed there unless accompanied by an escort, and the Duchess had left today. The young man reminded her that he was actually already 21 years old and that for 2 years, as an adult, he had been told that he was the only one who had not been to such an event. When Demian added that she might be bored if she wasn't interested in such things, the girl replied that she had never been to a tournament, but she had always been curious. Therefore, it is necessary to eat everything quickly and go there. The young man replied that they have enough time, so let him not hurry. After the tournament, the girl exclaimed that it was very interesting. She could not even imagine that he would be able to attack him so unexpectedly and win. Now the gentleman will have something to brag about to the aristocrats in the House of Lords, and perhaps he will even make many new friends while talking about the tournament. Demian objected that if he had another 100 friends, they would not have time to spend the whole day together. I thought to myself that she would probably say something like, "The more friends a gentleman has, the better," and that's not a big deal. But suddenly, our heroine muttered that she would feel sorry for him because she always had fun with him. She had never been bored or disliked anything when he came to Marion for the holidays. She always wanted him to stay longer. The young man stated that it would be better if he did not have any more friends. The girl objected that no, it was possible to spend time with her and with new acquaintances. Celine asked when he managed to book the restaurant. Willow replied that he sent his man to book a table when the tournament ended, just in time for dinner. If you are from the Duke's family, then they will give you a table that same day. As for you, I noted that this was a lie. There were dishes on the table that she would definitely like, and a location with a beautiful view. Everything was planned. The young man really wanted her to like everything and not be bored. Then he asked if she enjoyed the day. The girl replied that it was a lot of fun. It was a pity that she would have to go home afterwards. If this is the very date that everyone is talking about, then she understands why everyone likes it so much. If she has someone she loves, then she will spend every day with him just like today. The Duke's successor told her not to worry because there was another place they could go. After some time, they came to a park where there was a small pond in which lit candles were floating. The young man immediately said that if she wanted, they could do it too. When they approached the cellar, he asked if they also wanted to take part in the celebration. The guys did not understand what kind of celebration it was. The man asked if they knew the legend of the great magician who served the emperor during the founding of the empire. They say that he trapped starlight in flowers and released them on this lake, proposing to his beloved. Therefore, a month before the day of the foundation of the empire, many couples in love come here, of course. In reality, no one can enclose the starlight in flowers, so instead people light candles and launch them on paper boats. The Duke's successor said that he should give them 2 candles each, as they also wanted to try. Celine said that she had never heard of this legend before. The guy replied that he also learned about it recently. Our heroine asked if she could also participate. The guy clarified that there were any obstacles. Mars thought to herself that her father had told her when she was a child that only those in love go for walks to the lake, and that those who haven't found their soulmate yet shouldn't come. People are too easy to draw wrong conclusions. If she is too close to the young Duke, some may perceive her devotion the wrong way. The girl did not understand why he said that at the time. Celine replied that they were just friends and that they didn't have that kind of relationship, but Dad insisted that when you're constantly around someone, that kind of feeling can arise. Therefore, after thinking a little, she answered that it would be better for them to wait until Mr. Demian had a bride. But the young man handed her a candle and said that today she was his date partner, so she shouldn't bother her head with anything else. If they don't do it now, they'll regret it later. In fact, he's never been on such a serious date either. Therefore, he wants to show her signs of attention until the very end. She cannot refuse him this, so Mars agreed. When the boys launched the candles into the lake, the egg in the basket for some reason started shaking, and Celine asked if he wanted to too.